Everyone lost interest upon seeing the piles of dirty mecha spare parts. They had originally expected to see shiny mecha. Even if they could not be opened, it would have been good to see, but it was this instead. Where was the professor? After the crowd waited for quite some time and had moments of impatience, an old man walked in unsteadily. Upon looking at him, Wang Jung was shocked. It was Luo Mu. Luo Mu saw everyone's expressions clearly: impatience, scorn. Only when he saw Wang Jung in the crowd did Luo Mu reveal a trace of a smile. It was only because of Wang Jung's persuasion coupled with Yi Zisu's that Luo Mu decided to serve as a visiting professor here. With the addition of this elective course, he wished to pass down his skills. I am your teacher, Luo Mu. For the first class today, everyone will just be familiarizing themselves with the mech. We will do a little tidying up, cleaning of spare parts, and then class will be dismissed. Having said it, Luo Mu proceeded to a room inside the warehouse to watch television in a sagely manner, seemingly at ease. Everyone looked at each other. This was the teacher? If they stood before a mech, they would have gone crazy for such an opportunity. However, before them lay a pile of oily things. It was nauseating just to look at, much less the thought of having to clean them. Yi Zisu and Meng Tian also looked at each other. While Aries College was not in a good place, surely it was not this bad, right? Yi Zisu had a hunch that this was likely intended by Luo Mu. While the crowd was still hesitating, Wang Jung had already picked up tools and began cleaning the spare parts in an experienced fashion. Luo Mu stuck his head out of the window. You can ask me if you have any questions. He resumed watching television after speaking. Lin Weiyun's new song was playing. Luo Mu nodded. Not too bad this time. The music isn't decadent and has a bit of power to it. Even if one wore gloves, it was hard not to get greasy. It was alright for the boys, but even just the smell was difficult for the girls to stand. Yi Zisu got to work with Wang Jung with a much practiced hand. Wang Jung was very focused. He very quickly realized that these dirty mecha parts were actually. A model number became visible very quickly. ASL 23,556. This is Aslan's propeller. Wang Jung had only seen this in pictures. This was simply a work of art. Without a doubt, in terms of mecha technology, Aslan was at the top in the Milky Way alliance. Their mecha were celebrated for being far more complex in prowess and difficult in operations, and they were a beautiful inside and out. This was a dream. Yi Zisu was also surprised for a moment. Could these things be part of Luo Mu's collection? She knew that Luo Mu liked collecting parts from mecha of various countries, especially those that were unique. The things here should be a part of Luo Mu's private collection. Inside the room, Luo Mu had his legs crossed. To this old person, these things were priceless treasures to those who were interested, but mere scrap metal to those who had no love for it. Wang Jung immediately began cleaning rather systematically. Even then, it took about half an hour to clean a spare part. A sparkling set of propellers from Aslan's high-end mech, the Tempest Condor, emerged from the debris. Most people were loafing around. They were going to be mech warriors, not part of the maintenance division. No wonder this was just an elective module. If one knew this was so meaningless, one would not have elected for it, but Wang Jung was enjoying the moment. Actually, this job was not required to be done by students, but Luo Mu did this for a reason. Only when one got into the thick of doing things, making discoveries bit by bit, could they form deep memories and inspire an inner desire to seek further understanding. This was also a condition for him to accept the invitation, that he could choose his own methodology for teaching. When the break came, pretty much everyone was gone. Only Wang Jung, Yi Zisu, Meng Tian, and 10 others were left. At this time, Luo Mu hobbled out. The warehouse had 3 different types of parts cleaned. Luo Mu nodded. This is the result of your work today. Let me introduce the pros and cons of these 3 things. Wang Jung, yours is Aslan's Tempest Condor's propeller, also considered Aslan's main production mech. The thrust is definitely top-end, and its explosion-proof capabilities are also rather good. Other countries can learn from this. But in battle, these propellers have a fatal weakness. Luo Mu said. Some things only fighters would know, and others only a senior mechanic would. Deep in thought, Wang Jung asked, could it be the brakes? Luo Mu's eyes lit up. Indeed, in order to maintain its propulsion, the brakes are a bit slow in terms of operation. In battle, this can be capitalized on. Of course, to Aslan's fighters' operations, this matter is not seen as a problem. Wang Jung smiled. That was because they had yet to meet a true expert. The students who stayed understood that the course had only just begun. Luo Mu was not trying to teach students how to repair mecha. This indeed was not within the scope of a fighter. He covered parts of simple mechanical problems, the focus being seeing the pros and cons from a mechanic's point of view. From engines to energy capacities to weapons and the like, this was knowledge from a completely different angle. Luo Mu had never been on the battlefield, but he was a theorist with a unique perspective. The 10 or so dirty students were completely enthralled and almost had no time to ask questions. Other lessons only discussed the external parts of the mech, but this course imparted the essence and analysis of the mech. The flexibility of this mech is very good, but its anti-explosion capabilities are slightly worse. In close combat, try applying pressure to the pilot and force them to take hits from you, then the opponent is sure to collapse first. This type of specific data could only be understood by a senior mechanic. As to how to use it and when, only a fighter in battle would know, and it depended on the pilot's ability. To Wang Jung, he was hungry for more. Luo Mu was really something. The people who left pretty much did not come back for the second class, and those who stayed benefited greatly. One's takeaway from the lesson depended on their own abilities. Wang Jung stayed behind after class to ask quite a few questions, until Luo Mu became impatient and chased him away. Little fellow, you are too long-winded. I still have to work for a few years, so don't ask too much all at once. Wang Jung laughed. Hey, I am the stupid bird who's first to fly. Silly Yi, quickly take him away. This is overtime, and I want to rest. Yi Zisu laughed as she dragged Wang Jung away. Did some happen between you and Meng Tian? No. This silly girl asked me about you once she came back, wanting to find out about your bloodline. Don't tell me she's into you. Do you want me to help you two out? Yi Zisu asked, pretending not to mind. Wang Jung laughed. No thanks, she is my dorm mate, Zhang Shan's target. Gee, couldn't tell that your standards were rather high, even Meng Tian doesn't cut it. Wang Jung shrugged helplessly. He was relatively calm about such matters, feelings were necessary. Regardless, about Wang Jung's reply, student Yi Zisu was rather satisfied. Wang Jung did not return to his dormitory, he went straight to Brothers Cafe instead. In battle, he was aware of the state of his own mech, but he was certainly unable to understand his opponents. If he could grasp an understanding of both parties' mecha, that would be an improvement to him. This sort of thinking was only available to a crazy person like Wang Jung. This was based upon the highly difficult combination of theoretical understanding and actual insight. Just thinking about it was enough to make one dizzy, but Wang Jung felt like he had found a new path instead. This was certainly beneficial to his accurate understanding of the battle situation. If integrated with his battle instinct, it would increase his control over the fight by at least 10%. It was a pity that Wang Jung lacked partners to exchange with. If only he could spar with Bonehead. Although he was good at fighting people, other people had judgments that were much more accurate than his. When Wang Jung arrived at Brothers Cafe, he checked his inbox and there were no missions, so he immediately went into a ranked battle. Countless people had already added him as a friend, and he had his notifications turned on. Student Wang did not know how to appear invisible. At this time, countless IDs rang with a ding. Wang Jung wasted no time and immediately went into matchmaking mode. Not only were players notified, even the official special staff were notified, they sprang up immediately. Wang Jung was on a 6-game winning streak. Although the level was low, with this sort of 100% win rate, a 5 versus 5 was alright, but he would certainly run into a stronger opponent in one-on-one. Experts at the low levels were limited, but as the levels became higher, mecha restrictions were also lifted. Skeleton versus Rainbow. In another internet cafe, a man laughed heartily. Time for fame. War God number 1 versus Tempest Condor, Luo, a class tracking system equipped. After experiencing this several times, the official website responded quickly. Of course there was our famous commentator, Young Deer. Young Deer was commentating on a high-level match at the time. Suddenly, he apologized to his audience. This match has been decided already. Apologies to everyone, but I have a match I have to attend to. Come to think of it, I think everyone knows already. At this time, many skylinks were secretly opened in class. To play truant in front of professors was courting death, but to watch secretly was still okay. However, everyone was in a daze when they saw the opponent, this matchmaking. This rainbow was certainly a spoiled second-generation child. The Tempest Condor was Aslan's premier mech, with abilities enhanced by the system. With simplified controls for the mech, it was basically overpowered. It possessed terrifying speed and long-range combat ability. It had the ability to slaughter everything in 1,000 miles. It could literally fire and forget while its automated system murdered all its opponents. What left people even more speechless was that this fellow even had a Luoluo, a class tracking system equipped. This sort of tracking system helped weaker players become stronger. Simply put, this was a tool that enabled the average player to pull off operations at an ace pilot's level. It was pricey if one chose to equip it. However, one must also be aware that some high-level competitions prohibited it. However, at this level, it would not be prohibited. The Tempest Condor equipped with a Luoluo tracking system thrown into the novice zone was no different from a true god of war. It would absolutely slaughter the rest. Rainbow was slightly famous among the bronze rankers. He had created his own technique, the Rainbow Explosive Stream Kill. Truthfully, this was the work of money. The performance of his mech was already unrivaled, surpassing the technical abilities of other mecha. Due to the prohibition of assistance systems in the high levels, Student Rainbow persisted in the novice zone, unrivaled. Some people definitely invited higher players to battle, but it was no use. When the Tempest Condor was paired with this system, it was indeed unparalleled, that is unless you also use equipment of the same level. However, this was billed by the day, and the average player would not be able to afford it. Some players who were abused by it gave him a nickname, Little Red Noob. Rainbow was a rather cocky individual. Everyone could understand why. The opponent was about to be crushed in front of overwhelming power. Dominating noobs was his aim. Right in front of him lay yet another target. He was about to be famous. His only worry was that after seeing his loadout, Skeleton would be scared away. The viewers were currently awaiting Skeleton to leave the game entirely. Could it be that Skeleton was lagging and did not see his opponent? Wang Zheng's interface was not lagging behind. However, he was reading the enemy's mech's specifications. He had only ever heard of the Condor mech and not the Tempest Condor. He had also never heard of this Luoluo tracking system. After reading the description, he accepted the match. This tracking system was used to improve one's long-range accuracy. However, in reality, it was quite complicated to operate and was quite expensive. Hence only the best pilots would use such a system. The discussion forum had erupted in excitement. Many people had only known of Skeleton through Lin Weiyan's MV. It was not important if he was famous or not. They were as excited as those who had watched Skeleton's previous battles. War God number 1. Mech Power Level, 20 Tempest Condor, Luoluo. A class tracking system equipped, Mech Power Level, 70 plus 10. This was an absolutely crushing technical advantage. The basic mecha, like the Demon Wolf and the Beast, had a power level of approximately 40. It was still barely acceptable. However, in this case, the difference was 4 times. Regardless of the player, this difference was just too stark. If Skeleton could win, no, even the audience members could not imagine any way which Skeleton could win. Only if Little Red Noob was too arrogant and handicapped himself. This fellow is about to be steamrolled. He has upgraded his mech to the peak of what is possible. Even if you take a step back, how could he possibly make a mistake and lose? I have exchanged blows with him before. It was absolutely wretched. I'd even suspect 2 people were controlling the mech at the same time. He was just that good. Furthermore, his mech is so good that even if he made an error in judgment, he would still win. Rainbow was also watching the discussion forums and laughing heartily. What a load of bullshit. I myself am an expert from the SWAT team. We no longer live in the Stone Age. Those with skill and money are the unshakable ones, ha ha ha. The SWAT team had a break today. Who would have known that he would have met such a big fish? The moment he queued for a game, he would finish him in one gulp. and this would be something he could brag about for months to come. Battlefield map. Northern Star. This was the favorite map of commando units. A basic mech would have difficulty operating in this terrain. However, an elite mech would perform even better. What was also important was Northern Star's tall and lofty vegetation. It was especially suited for sudden combat. Once the enemy was located, firing off a large burst of lasers would definitely secure the win if the opponent did not react in time. Little Red Sister had chose this map without any shame to leverage his strengths. He guessed that the opponent would not reject his choice. Indeed, Skeleton did not choose to change the map. The discussion forum exploded into greater furor. Little Red Noob has absolutely no morals. Little Red Noob, do you even have B*LLS? Little Red Noob has no limit to his shame. However, this brother approves. Go forth, crush him, show him the strength of the rich. Young Deer was commentating from the side. It looks as though many people are supporters of Rainbow. After looking at the discussion forum, everyone should know that Rainbow not only has superior equipment, he also possesses his signature move, the Rainbow Sky Streak. I wonder if we will have the opportunity to see it. Ah. Someone asked if I would eat another milk carton and even asked if I would drink milk from my mum in the event Skeleton wins. I am a professional commentator and have a high level of integrity. You should not be targeting me. Saying which, even if I win, it's not as if Skeleton would eat a milk carton. This just isn't fair. Young Deer spoke in a de-emphasizing fashion. After so long, he had become immune to such insults. Having a high level of integrity came with a price. At this point, in Dormitory 007, Yao Ailun and Chen Shu were extremely excited. Someone had come to offer himself as a sacrifice. The normally restrained Chen Shu was completely unrestrained at this point. How would the enemy be crushed? He had absolutely no idea, but he knew that there would definitely be a way. However, not everyone was as naive and blind as those kids. Most of the audience members mulled over possible scenarios that could happen. However, even after analysis, they could not come up with any good ideas. All that was left was to watch the battle. Northern Stars covered battlefield. The War God No. 1 and Tempest Condor faced the setting sun. The effect of 5 times gravity was very obvious. Those who were weak at controlling their mechs would definitely move in a very embarrassing fashion. Those without a high-end mech would never chose to compete in such a battlefield. War God No. 1's actions had also been affected greatly. However, the effect on the Tempest Condor was quite minimal. The number of viewers continued to rise and it broke previous records without any surprise. The administrators continued to watch the numbers rise in anxiousness. As professionals, even they wondered how such a situation could be reversed. What a mess. This fellow must be sick. How could he use a War God No. 1 to challenge a Tempest Condor? There are so many viewers. F***CK. Isn't he trying to cheat my money? It has to be said that there were many viewers who were going with the flow. So long as there were many viewers, they would tune into the live stream. Only after tuning in would they realize that this was not the battle they had expected. It would be a one-sided crushing. Hello, friends. Those who have just graduated from kindergarten, please have a good look. Regardless of whether he won or lost, this would not be a battle that would end quickly. However, life was full of wonderful surprises. This was what it meant to live. All of the little kids were shocked. The two mecha began to move. The center of the map had an objective that had to be controlled. Whoever struck first would win the competition. Hence one could not hide. The two mecha knew the importance of taking the initiative. At this point, the strengths of the Tempest Condor were shown. On the minimap, the Tempest Condor began to move quicker and quicker. Although the War God No. 1 was rushing along furiously and it was quite fast, the Tempest Condor had already arrived at the center of the map. However, he did not capture the objective. In such a scenario, the majority of individuals would instead set up an ambush and attack the opponent when he arrived. Directly capturing the objective would be quite difficult otherwise. The Tempest Condor began to sneak around. As a SWAT officer, Rainbow enjoyed the use of high-performing items. Only then could he use all his skills. However, it was a pity that everyone had only noticed his wealth. It was preferable for him to find higher ground to ambush Skeleton. The vegetation was extremely thick and most people would not notice him hiding inside. However, against an expert like Skeleton, His concern was not to remain hidden but rather to have the first strike. Rainbow quietly waited. The mech went into silent mode. His SWAT training was very strenuous. Thus, when he relaxed, he would usually take it easy. However, this was a different situation altogether. It was exciting. The war god number 1, which was approaching at a high speed, suddenly slowed down. This was not the first time. Whenever he approached a dangerous location, Skeleton would examine the area carefully. However, it was of no use. Everyone in the audience knew that the most dangerous point was just as he approached the objective. The question was, who would be the one to set up the ambush first? Who would be the first one to strike? Just before Rainbow started to lurk in the shadows, he had attacked the objective and captured it. This small advantage would inevitably spell the difference between victory and defeat. This removed the opponent's ability to stall for time. This would force Skeleton to attack him. The war god number 1 paused for a brief moment in silence before slowly launching into his plan. He started to advance in the direction of the objective. The path he took was in Rainbow's field of view. This was the path with the best view. Rainbow's Tempest Condor began to patiently wait for the opportunity. The mech's engine was rumbling at a low volume, allowing him to maintain his position of stealth. With the war god number 1's basic detection systems, the Tempest Condor was basically untraceable. Even when stomping noobs, there was still a certain rhythm to it. Most importantly, one could not give the opponent any opportunity to react. Otherwise, it could bring disaster to themselves. They had to be left untouched at the end of the crushing victory. Although Rainbow had determined the path which Skeleton would take, he could not help but feel depressed. The opponent was moving extremely quickly, darting left and right. However, he would always be moving near a piece of cover which would allow him to take shelter from any shots fired at him. However, Rainbow was extremely patient. At this point in time, if he were to strike too soon, it would reveal his position. An opportunity where Skeleton was exposed would come. It definitely would. Finally, Skeleton approached an area approximately 20 meters long and wide which possessed no cover. With war god number 1's top speed, it would cross the distance in merely a step or two. Yet the war god number 1 was not even at top speed at the current moment. Rainbow's breathing gradually slowed down and the grip on his weapon tightened. It was clear that Skeleton had also realized that this area was the most dangerous one yet. However, he also noticed that there was no time to take an alternate approach and hence hardened his resolve as he continued to move in that direction. The war god number 1 accelerated at this point, intending to rush across quickly. The war god number 1 plans to cross this exposed area with sheer speed. However, the Tempest Condor has already made his preparations. Let the devastating array of lasers take his life, said the clearly biased young deer. He had been waiting for this moment since the start. Everyone's eyes enlarged in anticipation of the moment. The war god number 1 had rushed in. After merely 2 steps, the Tempest Condor had also rushed out. The war god number 1 was completely exposed in his targeting sights. At this point in time, the war god number 1 leaned to the side, looking as though it was planning to withdraw. At this point, the laser rifle pointed towards the Tempest Condor. The sneaky snake has come out of hiding. It looks as though he was prepared for an ambush, however, beautiful. The Tempest Condor was completely unaffected. The moment he had appeared, he did not attack. He had paused for a moment to ascertain the war god number 1's movements. They were extremely stable, confident movements. However, this skeleton truly had underestimated him. Once the war god number 1 started to retreat and even raised his laser rifle, the Tempest Condor had already unleashed his attack. Bang 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 bang. 4 streaks of light flashed out. Beautiful. Young deer screamed as he slapped his leg repeatedly. Rainbow truly has amazing judgment. This was not a wildly fired laser shot. With the Luoluo tracking system, the laser's radiance turned into a perfectly geometrical figure as they arched towards the war god number 1. This is Salma's double wave killing array, god. All of the viewers were shocked. Although it was executed with the help of the Luoluo tracking system, this was still an extremely hard to execute military technique. The hardest laser technique to dodge was the wave type. This was meant to counter dodging movements. The one who had invented the technique was Aslan's Colonel Salma. Being able to execute a single wave array shot would be sufficient to dominate the entire newbie arena. However, what was fired was the double wave array. It was definitely more than enough to murder Skeleton. Young Deer screamed in excitement. Even if he ran to his grandma's house to hide, he still would not be able to dodge this move. Rainbow possessed exceptional equipment, was an expert, and even used an overpowered mech. There was no way Skeleton could survive. Rainbow's mouth curved into a smile. This was his technique, rainbow across the sky. After learning such a skill, what was important was to have the judgment to utilize it. All of the viewers were shocked. The monstrous demon, War God Number 1, had started to move irregularly once again, weaving past the numerous attacks by a thin margin. All of this occurred within the span of a single second. However, it was still no use. The difference in technical capabilities was just too large. Everyone gasped in admiration, and some even felt a slight pang of regret. The attack had almost been completely avoided. Despite its vigorous movement, the tail end of the double wave still managed to hit the War God Number 1. As the War God Number 1 was swaying around dodging the onslaught of attacks, Rainbow was already preparing for another barrage of attacks. All of a sudden, the War God Number 1 fired its laser rifle. How did the War God Number 1 not explode? That was impossible. The double wave was not an attack that could be blocked without an energy shield. Even if Rainbow's opponent did not get destroyed, that round had clearly hit the War God Number 1. On the other hand, the laser fired from the War God Number 1's rifle did not hit its opponent. Instead it hit the tree which the Tempest condor was standing on. Although the Northern Star's vegetation was extremely sturdy, it could not withstand the laser's impact. Rumble, the Tempest condor started to fall from its perch. However, the mech's propulsion ability activated and it smoothly stabilized in the middle of the air. Yet in that moment, Rainbow burst out in cold sweat. He had fallen into a trap. His first reaction should not have been to halt his fall. He should have activated his energy shield instead. Bang! Headshot. An explosion blanketed the sky. The room fell into silence. Young Deer, who was in the middle of a premature victory dance, suddenly froze in place. Not a single sound could be heard. Unable to hold it in, Young Deer broke the silence and angrily screamed out, "Why did the War God Number 1 not sustain any damage? Is his mech invincible?" A slow-motion replay of the exchange was shown on screen. Rainbow's double-wave kill array was beautiful and lethal. It was a testament to Rainbow's efforts and immense training. Conversely, the War God Number 1's dodging ability was truly out of this world. However, it was still unable to fully avoid the double-wave attack. Everything happened in a flash. Previously, everyone was unable to see anything amidst the rapid flurry of movement, but analyzing the footage in slow motion revealed Skeleton's trick to surviving the encounter. Whilst the War God Number 1 was dodging, its left hand clutched a titanium alloy knife, while its right hand held its laser rifle. Both weapons were used simultaneously. The knife slashed horizontally, while the rifle was leveled at the Tempest condor. This B***Stard actually had such skillful ambidextrous control over his mech? Rainbow's final laser round was reflected off the titanium alloy knife. At the point in time, Skeleton fired his own laser rifle. Even for a replay, the arena's spectators were watching with bated breath. Yet, in such a frantic moment, Skeleton did not choose to target Rainbow and instead targeted the tree beneath the Tempest condor. Why? Why? Only Rainbow truly understood why. His opponent was a monster. To be able to shoot Rainbow in such a situation was extremely difficult. If he had missed, Rainbow would have definitely activated his energy shield. Comparatively, the tree was a very large target, and it made strategic sense to target the opponent's foothold. One would instinctively attempt to regain their balance. The strategy was even more appropriate since the Tempest condor was equipped with a propulsion function. It was only expected that the flying mech would use that particular piece of equipment. As a veteran SWAT member, Rainbow felt a cold sweat break out on his back. Who was this monster sitting inside the War God Number 1? How could he be so level-headed in such a situation? Young Deer could only see black. What was wrong with this world? How could someone like Skeleton exist? He felt like escaping from this impossible situation. Maybe he should just migrate to a different country. That would be the only way to get away from all of this madness. Skeleton didn't even die in such a situation. In their dormitory, Chen Shu and Yao Ailun were hugging each other while jumping around in joy. Even if they did not know how Skeleton had won the match, he was still able to find the path to victory. Chen Shu had already gone completely crazy. This is too scary. Although his dodging skills were beautiful, that shot of his was truly on par with a grandmaster. Indeed, if he had just directly attacked the Tempest Condor, regardless of how precise Skeleton is with his firing, it would have been meaningless, even Zhang Shan had exclaimed. In truth, they were not the only ones who had given up hope while watching the match. Rainbow's Tempest Condor had technical capabilities that were just too strong. This was the only path to victory. The eventual defeat was not due to a difference in technical capabilities, and neither was it due to Rainbow's piloting skills. It was due to Skeleton's godlike judgment. Skeleton made a move that forced Rainbow's hand. It had to do with human instinct. Rainbow had lost in terms of instinct. It was Skeleton's observational ability that surpassed all else. Even real-time mechanical analyses were not as accurate as this. This match had completely shocked everyone. Student Wang was also exceptionally smug. That last battle had given him a run for his money. The truth was that Wang Zheng did not have the confidence that he would win every battle. He just countered every trick he met with one of his own. In fact, this time, he was proud to say that his judgment was spot on. It would have been great if Bonehead was here. With such a perfect battle, he would definitely have awarded me an A+ grade. His chest suddenly felt cold. A skeletal robot materialized right in front of Wang Zheng. Student Wang immediately squatted on the ground. F***ck me. You almost scared me to death. Of all people to appear, it had to be you. Why are you here? The Super War God trainee has the privilege to summon the trainer for constructive criticism, Bonehead replied nonchalantly. F***ck me. Why didn't you say so earlier? You never asked. Facing the calm and collected Bonehead, Wang Zheng gave up any thoughts of struggling. So, how was it? My last battle was nice, wasn't it? Bonehead's eyes emitted a red light. Pathetic. Wang Zheng was infuriated. How could it be pathetic? Why would you say that? As a super war god, there was no need to go through so much trouble. The moment the enemy appears is the moment you take him out. You should have immediately shot him through the head. Bonehead said quite nonchalantly. Student Wang felt a cold breeze blow past. Talking to Bonehead was truly impossible. Hiss, it felt as though his chest had suddenly become a bit colder. Wang Zheng had a bad feeling about it. I don't suppose summoning you has a price? As a matter of fact, it does. Calling me out will decrease your battle energy, Bonehead replied, with a haughty expression. Pitiful Wang Zheng almost choked to death upon hearing his mentor's response. Get back in. What are you waiting for? Student Wang truly wanted to weep, but no tears came out. He could already imagine Bonehead's answer. You didn't ask. F***ck. Although he did not know the circumstances behind the Rand Empire's R&D team, the one who created the Rubik's Cube was truly unreasonable. Was it so hard to explain things in greater detail? They should have included an instruction manual. Cheating someone like that would really get him killed. Bonehead disappeared and Wang Zheng's chest finally felt normal again. He unbuttoned his shirt and took a glance. F***ck. His battle energy indeed had decreased. What a B***tch. Bonehead was truly his nemesis. Wang Zheng's exuberant mood was completely ruined. He felt that his hard-earned battle energy gained throughout the last week of training had completely disappeared. Wang Zheng walked away, crestfallen. The owner of Brothers Net Cafe could not help but feel bad for his customer. He gave Wang Zheng a smile and said, "Little brother, don't be sad. Failure is just one part of success. If you can persevere through all of this hardship, you will eventually improve." The owner truly understood him. Wang Zheng looked at the owner. He wanted to cry, but no tears would come. In the end, the owner gifted him a bowl of noodles as a small consolation prize. Despite Bonehead's low opinion on Wang Zheng's fight, elsewhere, the match had stirred up a huge surge of activity. The battle did not merely demonstrate one's skill, it showed off one's unmatched judgment even in the heat of battle. Needless to say, everyone who saw the match was amazed at the level of skill displayed. Many of these spectators were newcomers to court after watching the newest video advertised by the game developers. They were hooked. Lin Weyan, skeleton? Listening to the song Not Afraid while watching that intense pentakill video, it had aroused within them a burning passion for battle. If one were to sing the song with its lyrics, "Don't try and stop me, persevere on your path, without any doubt. Followers, I'm back, I'm back," this was the headline on the public net. It struck a chord within everyone who had read it. Who was back? Was it trying to say that the war god #1 was back? Is this the heavenly wicked explosions rhythm? Is he even human? This is definitely the tempo of a god. In Aslan, Lin Weyan was sitting on a swing in her house. A pair of snow-white legs stretched out as the swing dipped forward and curled up as the swing pulled back. This guy is quite impressive. What do you think of his fighting capabilities? Weyan asked curiously. Her female bodyguard, Li Jian, watched the screen with a calm expression. Your Highness, a person of such caliber can be found anywhere in Aslan. This hype is simply because the people of Earth have pathetic standards. Oh, replied Weyan. Aslan's arrogance was truly ingrained in its people. Although she did not know how strong Skeleton was, Weyan honestly believed that this player possessed an awe-inspiring attitude towards winning. This alone would make him stand out against Aslan's player base. Regardless of her bodyguard's opinion, Skeleton had not let her down. The story would have been completely different if he had lost his most recent battle. That would have been humiliating and it would have negatively impacted her song's popularity. Add a performance for the solar system. Have the show organized on Earth. Lin Weyan instructed, out of the blue. Your Majesty, the market there is exceptionally small. I advise against this suggestion. I want it done. This will be beneficial for Aslan's image. Furthermore, my cousin has been there before. Paying a visit would only show our sincerity. Weyan let out a slight smile. To the general public, she was a famous celebrity, but she was more than that. Only the people beside her knew of her true identity. Truthfully, she was the daughter of the Aslan Empire's side supporter, Iron Fist Prime Minister Kia Shawin. Kia Shawin was also Aina's aunt, making Weyan cousin to the famous Aslan princess. Although Weyan was of royal blood, she was not as involved in political matters. Unlike Aina, Weyan's responsibilities were solely to improve Aslan's galactic image. To the royal family, such a role was sufficient. One more thing. If you take another half-month's break from school, the principal will definitely flip out. Anjali had a headache. This little princess's train of thought was like a heavenly steed soaring through the skies. The sight of which would take people by surprise. Oh, that old geezer can be coaxed but not coerced. Tell him this. My actions are for the sake of the Empire. It will also simultaneously display our sincerity. Don't you think that I have an affinity for this? Weyan made a cute pose. However, this killer look had absolutely no effect on Anjali. She was completely immune. After Anjali left, Lin Weyan replayed the video of the battle. Her advisors had all said that it was because the opposition was too weak, and this allowed for an easy victory against 5 opponents. There was nothing exceptional about the fight. However, Weyan did not feel that that was the case. Weyan's thoughts shifted to her pitiful cousin, Aina. Although Aina was a direct descendant of the royal family, she had no freedom at all. A life in a cage held no meaning. Then again, if Aina wasn't there, the one suffering would have been Weyan herself. Lin Weyan reminded herself to do something nice for her cousin as a form of thanks. No matter what, Weyan had achieved record-breaking results with her latest song. It even had the added bonus of quieting down her critics. Back in his CT pod, Rainbow still made no motion of getting up. He was re-watching the video intensely. The more he watched, the more surprised he was. As a SWAT team leader, he had ample combat experience and had prepared accordingly. He had almost completely predicted the enemy's movements. However, he did not expect the opponent to surpass him by such an extent. The enemy must have meticulously prepared for their encounter. It was truly terrifying. Unless, if Skeleton were simply reacting to the situation, that would have been even more terrifying. What kind of training did Skeleton have to undergo to allow him to make decisions under such pressure? War God #1. Suddenly, Rainbow's interest had also been aroused. In the dormitory, Chen Shu and Yao Ailun had not rested. They had decided to divide the responsibility of managing the skeleton core in two. Each individual had to settle a stack of applications. Whilst reading over the details of new recruits, a familiar ID attracted their attention. Little red noob. Rainbow could only let out a bitter smile. You were a little noob. Your entire family was filled with noobs. However, if he wanted to join, he would need their approval. I am Rainbow. I was wondering if I could join the skeleton corps. Of course you can. We welcome all experts, Chen Shu said excitedly. The skeleton corps was full of noobs. Everyone often fought together and lost together. They needed experts to guide them. Needless to say, Rainbow was a true expert. The Corps was taking a major step forward by attracting CT experts. Upon entering, Rainbow discovered that the Skeleton Corps had over 10,000 members, with a large percentage of them consistently active and online. The moment he entered, a group of people immediately asked him to guide them. He had originally thought that he would be mocked and shunned for losing, but instead, everyone had greeted him with enthusiasm, hoping to learn and improve from Rainbow's own battle with Skeleton. This was first-hand information from a participant. 1. Idiomatic expression meaning bold and imaginative. Rainbow nonchalantly vocalized his thoughts. With my experience gained from years in the Special Forces, to reach such a standard would mean that he is very likely an expert from the army. However, what I don't understand is why he would want to be here. The Skeleton Corps burst out in excited chatter. It seemed like Rainbow was not a rich kid as originally thought. Rather, he was a member of the Special Forces. This truly shocked the group of children. If one thought about it, not everyone could execute the double-wave certain kill array. The reason why Rainbow was so relaxed was that his normal training was just too stifling. As a mecha warrior, when facing enemies that he could not control, he would opt to suppress them elegantly. However, when he fought against Skeleton, simple techniques were sufficient to beat his opponent, but Rainbow did not choose to take the easy route to victory, and that cost him the battle. Despite being the first of Skeleton's rivals to join the Skeleton Corps, he was treated like a celebrity. Chen Shu and Yao Ailun had been extremely busy with work, but Little Red Noob was just too interesting of an individual, and as such they promoted him to the role of an administrator in the Skeleton Corps. With a large group of people encouraging him to take on the administrator role, including a fan group that had a crush on him, Little Red Noob caved to the pressure and eventually agreed. Taking on the administrator role was akin to being thrown into a deep ocean once he had entered the Corps. Back in the mathematics department, Masashi was in a single-bed dormitory. It was precisely what he had requested for. Hey, Masashi, are you having fun on Earth? I am so bored here on Mars. Martians are just too barbaric. I really envy those who have gone to other star systems. Why are we so unlucky to have been sent here? Masashi's skylink depicted a man with short, black hair. The two of them seemed to be very close. This was Masashi's friend, Lear. Earth is beautiful. It looks completely different when compared to seeing it from the moon. Lear was quick to rebut that statement. F***ck, other than the fact that it was the birthplace of mankind, what is so beautiful about it? With our qualifications, why are we forced to stay behind in the solar system? Our colleagues could leave to venture out to other places. Our boss is just too despicable. Masashi gave him a wry smile. I don't really understand what's going on in Mars, but judging by the situation, Earth does not seem to be all that bad. What? It can't be. Earth is inferior to Mars. What could be worth your attention? I feel that boss is just wasting his time there. Much to the disagreement of the younger generation, in truth, the standards of living in the solar system were not very high. However, relatively speaking, the standards of living on the moon were even worse as they were dependent on Earth for supplies and resources. Although the moon possessed ample strength, it was still too small and limited by its scarce natural resources. That year, the solar system's glory was displayed to the entire Milky Way alliance. However, the moon was not able to show off their true capabilities. Yet, in terms of human talent and skill, the moon was ranked in the top 10. Historically, Earth has produced exceptional individuals. Even if they have declined in rankings and are no longer as prominent, Earth should not be treated with contempt. I recently encountered an interesting individual with abilities that rival my own, said Masashi. Lear looked shocked. You're kidding, right? Among the 8 of us, you're considered to be within the top 4, this person. Hee, I'm just waiting for an opportunity to confirm my suspicions. Boss only gave us half a year's worth of time. You have to make the most of this time. Lear smiled before turning off his Skylink. Meanwhile, in the Pan-Milky Way Galaxy Military School Alliance, the Milky Way Alliance had occupied the most important role. It was tasked with overseeing each respective planet's talent and human resources. In a time of peace, other than readiness competitions, the key thing was to ensure that talented individuals strove against each other so as to continually improve the overall standard of intellect. The moon was usually the representative for the solar system each year. However, they were unable to achieve any significant results. Ever since then, the solar system has continued to deteriorate, and thus they decided to implement a new plan. Masashi was part of the team to do so. This was also the reason why he was on Earth. Originally, they had decided against selecting Ares College. Among the 3 military colleges of Earth, it was ranked the lowest. However, Milu made the decision to pick Ares College. Ever since Masashi arrived, he had nothing but bad things to say about Ares College. The teaching standards were behind the times and, frankly speaking, grossly inefficient. The course curriculum did not interest him either. Even the facilities were lacking. It was understandable that Ares College was unable to compete with the best. As a military school, the facilities for physical training were insufficient and the gravity on the planet was weak. Furthermore, the condition of the genetic conditioning auxiliary facilities was completely unacceptable. Their software and hardware were also inferior. Naturally, the college would become less competitive over time. Mars faced a similar situation. However, because the environment on Mars was vicious and the competition was fierce, Martian battle capabilities tended to be slightly stronger. Being the pioneer wasn't bad, but most of them were all brawn and no brains. Turning on his Skylink, information on a specific individual popped out with a large amount of extra information on the side. This was Masashi's primary aim in coming to Earth. This individual was none other than Zhang Long from the Zeus Military College. His family owned Earth's largest political and economic conglomerate. The moon was not the only one striving for power. Earth was also full of individuals who did so as well. Comparatively, the urge to strive for power was significantly more pressing for those on Earth. The amount of publicly available information on Zhang Long was extremely shocking and practically unbelievable. Yet, Earthlings did like to brag, and no one could confirm if what was said was true. This plan could not afford to fail. Wang Zheng was considered a pleasant surprise. Could it be that Milu's ability X was pointing him towards Ares College? Perhaps his X-Factor ability was to discover more talented individuals? Regardless of his discovery of Wang Zheng, Masashi still had his primary objective to fulfill. He needed to pay a visit to Zhang Long. Back at the MMA club, Wang Zheng was training as usual. The place which Masashi had felt was very backward and primitive could be considered a heaven to Wang Zheng. Although Bonehead was very sly, Wang Zheng still felt very happy that he could contact Bonehead. His parents weren't around. The old merchant had also left him. The only one he could really talk to was Bonehead. In truth, Bonehead and the old merchant were quite similar. They both enjoyed ruining other people's hobbies. "What has made you so happy?" Meng Tian asked. "Nothing much. The principal is looking for you. I recommended you. With your abilities, you will definitely be a core member," replied Meng Tian. "What? When school starts every year, on the first month, the 3 military colleges evaluate and test their students. This year we happen to be in charge of organizing the event where the 3 colleges will come together to compete. Zeus and Apollo will each dispatch a team. The freshmen will be the main attraction, while the senior students will just be the sideshow. For this year, the president will lead the team," Meng Tian explained. Wang Zheng seemed very busy lately, but Meng Tian was unsure of what he was busy with. It was like he had a lot of issues to settle. Having the opportunity to compete with experts will definitely be a good thing. The competition will involve everything we know. Additionally, we will also get to compete with real mechs. It could be seen that Meng Tian was also looking forward to it. Such an event could be considered a real battle. "Really? This event is that extravagant?" Wang Zheng seemed slightly distracted. How many mecha would be destroyed in such a competition? "It's not what you think," Although they will be using real mecha, they will be outfitted with training systems. Meng Tian let out a wry smile. The person in front of her was truly ignorant and ill-informed at times. The training system could assign values to the damage dealt and apply the impact on the mecha accordingly if it surpassed a specific threshold. For example, if the damage dealt to the right limb of a mech exceeded a specific value, the right limb would be disabled. If the damage dealt surpassed the protective value of the energy shield, the battle would immediately end. It was comparable to a normal battle. However, even then, the price for carrying out such a competition would still be exorbitantly expensive. Only if a planet was considered rich in the Milky Way alliance would such mock battles be a common occurrence. All of this had aroused Wang Zheng's interest. If the CT emulation was already so sweet, riding a real mech would truly be exciting. Do you have any experience in mechs? Does CT count? Wang Zheng asked. Meng Tian stared at him. Of course not, controlling an actual mech is significantly different than that of a game. Looks like you being part of the team might be a problem. Wang Zheng rolled his eyes. From a person who was content with instant noodles 3 meals a day, if he was able to use mecha as a form of transportation, would that not be like a fantasy story? Boss. Student Meng Tian, you're here too, Yan Xiaoshu shouted as he barged in. After seeing Meng Tian, he paused to stare at her as though no one else was there. As it was extremely late at night, Wang Zheng and Meng Tian were the only 2 people left in the gym. In front of Wang Zheng, Meng Tian did not usually pay much attention to what she wore. A simple t-shirt graced her voluptuous curves, especially that slender waist. If anyone saw it, their noses would surely bleed. As the training was intense, she had naturally sweated a significant amount. Even though she was in exercise shorts, the sight stunned Yan Xiaoshu. As though she could not bear the gaze of Yan Xiaoshu, Meng Tian excused herself from the conversation and exited into an adjacent room to train. Yan Xiaoshu quickly grabbed Wang Zheng. Boss, no wonder you joined the MMA club, the compensation is unparalleled. What is it? Yan Xiaoshu smiled sweetly as he fished out a letter. Once Wang Zheng saw the object, he couldn't help but feel nervous. You can't possibly want me to deliver yet another love letter, right? Wang Zheng felt as though his head was going to explode. Yan Xiaoshu nodded his head vigorously as he grinned. No wonder they were brothers. They were basically telepathic. Go and send it yourself. Girls like guys who are brave. It's for in May, I'm not close to her, and it would not be good for me to give her the letter directly. This is just an invitation letter, and having someone who is more familiar with her would increase the odds of success. When I confess, I assure you, I will set the stage appropriately. It will be a sight to behold, said Yan Xiaoshu. I have only ever met her once. Wang Zheng had nothing to say. The last time this happened, the outcome was quite pitiful. Let me help you then, Meng Tian said as she walked over. An exercising girl would exude a charm of her own. Once again, Yan Xiaoshu was stunned. Then, upon thinking she might end up as his sister-in-law, he snapped back to his senses. Sis-in-law, it's all up to you. Meng Tian was absolutely shocked by his reply, and her cheeks flushed red. Yan Xiaoshu then gave her a subtle thumbs up. This was what it meant to hide something well. When did he manage to snag this beautiful ice queen? Scram! Wang Zheng lifted his leg to kick Yan Xiaoshu, but his friend had ran out of the gym. Yet at this moment, Yan Xiaoshu's head reappeared out from the frame of the door. Sis-in-law, boss is a virgin. It's as though he has just been freshly assembled from the factory, perfect quality is assured. Student Wang felt as though he had been struck by lightning. This bastard had to have his mouth removed. Meng Tian couldn't help but let out a smile. She had never met such an outrageous person. Your friend seems quite interesting. Even though your personalities are so different, you can still get along so well. Actually, I feel like I have been tricked by him into joining his dubious ventures. His mouth just never stops blabbering. It's Yan Xiaoshu after all, the most influential figure of the Trade and Commerce Department, replied Meng Tian. Wang Zheng stared blankly. The most influential figure? Him? Middle school and college are completely different worlds. Even if others did not like this sort of personality in middle school, in college, he is like a fish in water. He is currently coordinating with the school's numerous large societies to organize an event. Whether he is successful or not is one thing, but practically everyone knows of him. Meng Tian replied very naturally. Conversely, Wang Jung seemed to be a strange person. He didn't even know of such a thing. Wang Jung didn't even care about the things happening around him. One would not even have to mention things like influence. However, deep down, he was extremely happy for Xiaoshu. That bastard had finally made his mark. It was great. Do you feel that it will work out? I don't know the sort of person In Mei likes, but we have talked about him before. He has also gone to the drama club before, and rumors say that he played a nasty trick on the president. That's good. At least he has made an impression. Would you help me out and do this favor for him? Even if In Mei doesn't like him, when he is rejected, try and be tactful about it when you deliver her response. Some things did not have to be experienced more than once. If it happened often, it would no doubt cause issues to arise. Under Meng Tian's curious prodding, Wang Jung explained what had previously happened with Yu Jing. Meng Tian nodded her head. She has eyes but cannot see the pearls in front of her. Unknowingly, the distance between the two had shrunk. It has to be said that Wang Jung used to be tormented by Bonehead. In fact, because of Bonehead, Wang Jung felt a slight aversion to beautiful girls. In his mind, Wang Jung conjured up an image of Bonehead wearing makeup so as to help himself focus and not be distracted. However, a beautiful girl was still a beautiful girl regardless. Meng Tian had an amazing body, and there was nothing wrong with her features. She had flawless, snow-white skin, and other than her cold personality, she was truly a beauty that anyone would fall in love with at first sight. Even if Wang Jung was slow to react, he would eventually succumb to the other party's charm. However, by the time Wang Jung could feel it, Meng Tian hurriedly stood up. I'm going to go first. I will help your friend pass the letter to In Mei. Don't worry about it. After reassuring Wang Jung, she rushed towards the female changing rooms. Even Wang Jung could feel that her heart was clearly quite flustered. Dear student Wang rubbed his nose. Was he that scary? To the students of Aries College, the upcoming month would definitely be the most exciting one by far. Firstly, it was an event between the three military colleges. This year it would be held in Aries College, and it was rare that there would be a full confrontation with blood-boiling battles. It was something everyone looked forward to. The students of Aries College were particularly excited as this year's freshmen included Masasi and Carl. Because of these two extraordinary individuals, Aries College's team's strength had improved explosively. There was a good chance that they would be able to realize Old Third's 10,000-year destiny. The second and also most important thing was that Lin Weiyan would be performing a concert in Beijing. In the entire solar system, she only chose to perform on Earth and specifically in Beijing. This caused all of her numerous fans to be extremely excited. Of course, the fans included the three in the dormitory and Wang Jung's best buddy, Yan Xiaoshu. To the princeling student Yan, he would spare no expense to grab a ticket. However, up till now, only news of the concert was made available. Ticketing had yet to start, but the fans would inevitably be waiting anxiously. However, the problem was that Lin Weiyan was just too popular. Although the younger generation was full of rebellious individuals, Weiyan's sweet princess image had captivated countless hearts. Everyone aspired to be a badass while hoping others were just quiet individuals who wouldn't dare to stand out. The new song was one that had a very gallant style to it. For Lin Weiyan's previous concerts, the venues were typically bursting with people. This time, the concert would be in Beijing with the headlining song being Not Afraid. It was rumored that the inspiration for the song had come from Earth. Students loved to engage in bustling activity, and this exciting festival was no exception. Yan Xiaoshu happily called Wang Jung on his Skylink, telling him that In Mei had agreed to his invitation. After merely meeting once, it seemed as though In Mei was quite different from Yu Jing. Even if his confession was unsuccessful, it was unlikely that she would put him on the spot. For the purpose of this prestigious interschool event, the school had to pick out outstanding talent to compete against the other schools. Despite an equal number of spots allocated for freshmen and seniors, the main point of the exchange was to test the freshmen's talent. Masasi and Carl were both freshmen but were without a doubt part of the main force. Wang Jung was picked as the substitute for the team. Although Wang Jung's military training wasn't bad, a training exercise could not be considered sufficient experience, because a real battle was a completely different situation. The other two had often experienced such competitions, and as such, selecting them was to be expected. But for someone without prior battle experience, being selected as a substitute was already very shocking. Other than him, Zhang Shan was selected as another substitute. The two of them were representatives from the physics department, which was also the first time something like this had happened. Captain. Ma Xiao official members, Zhang Bin, Masa Si, Carl, Meng Tian. Substitutes. Wang Jung, Zhang Shan, Guan Dao. The individuals who were chosen for this event every year would have special attention paid to them by the school. This year's event was even more lively as Masa Si and Carl's strength had given the school a hope for victory. Even though Ma Xiao was considered an expert, a lone hero could not hold back a pack of wolves. His individual ability was not sufficient to allow him to dominate the competition. With Masa Si and Carl assisting him, Ma Xiao felt his confidence increase. Especially since he had personally tested the two's battle capabilities, he had felt extremely confident. The remaining time left for training was meant to improve the team's ability to work together, as well as for personal training to ensure that the team would compete in peak physical condition. Guan Dao was originally in the official lineup, but he was replaced by Meng Tian. However, this was expected as the tournament was originally intended for the freshmen. Furthermore, when Guan Dao had competed with Meng Tian, he had lost 3 times in a row. Ma Xiao had to make a decision. As Wang Jung and Zhang Shan showed excellent performance during military training, they were chosen as the substitutes of the team. Such a lineup was already sufficient. The training lasted from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. every night with teacher Zhou Mu from the mecha department supervising. Zhou Mu had graduated from Ares College and was the trump card of the army. However, as he had lost one of his legs in a battle, he retired as a battle instructor. He was a teacher with a unique personality, and in truth he was quite cruel. He would fly into a terrible rage whenever someone failed, and this often resulted in the school receiving numerous complaints. However, he had suppressed the complaints with his own abilities, yet, the fact was that if results could not be produced, it would be hard to say if he could continue to stay in the school. Guan Dao whispered, "One has to be calm to deal with Steel Leg Joe. Regardless of what he says, just imagine he's just making fart noises." Guan Dao was quite close to the rest with the exception of Ma Xiao and Zhang Bin. Zhang Shan was in a festive mood. With Wang Jung together with him, Zhang Shan treated the training regime as an excursion with a buddy. After half an hour, Zhou Mu finally hobbled his way into the classroom. One of his legs was fitted with a steel prosthetic and his footsteps were uneven, clinking as he walked along. Zhou Mu scoffed at the 8 of them before looking at Ma Xiao. "Why are you still here? Looks like Ares College is lacking people." Ma Xiao looked embarrassed. He was in his 4th year and by right should not be eligible for the inter-school competition. However, it was unavoidable as Ares College was severely lacking in experts. With regards to Zhang Bin and Guan Dao, Zhou Mu completely ignored the two of them. However, Zhang Bin and Guan Dao did not take offense at his treatment of them. They had long become used to his attitude. Using Steel Leg Joe's own words, crop after crop, disappointment year after year. "I suppose you two are the ones not from Earth. I heard your strength isn't bad. However, this is Ares College's fight. Are you willing to participate on behalf of Ares College?" asked Steel Leg Joe. Carl grinned arrogantly. "Competing casually will be enough. What is the point of being serious for such a small-time competition?" Steel Leg Joe then turned to Masa Si. "Do you feel the same way? I am currently a student of Ares College. Naturally I will put in all my effort to fight for Ares College. You can rest assured about this, teacher," replied Masa Si. Zhou Mu nodded his head before pointing at Carl. You can leave now." Carl stared blankly. "Hey, you old bastard, did you make a mistake? Did you just ask me to leave?" "If you don't want to leave, I can throw you out myself," replied Zhou Mu nonchalantly. "You old bastard, do you think I wouldn't dare to hit you?" After saying that, Carl immediately rushed towards Zhou Mu, but Zhou Mu just lifted his leg. Bang! Carl screamed in pain. "Bitch! That was alloyed metal. If a normal limb was to collide with it, Zhou Mu had indeed thrown Carl out of the doorway before closing the door. The room had 7 people left. Ma Xiao and the rest looked at each other. They were doomed. Carl was one of their key members. Without him, the team had basically lost half of its fighting strength. I don't oppose anyone becoming a hero, however, one has to have a sense of team honor. Regardless of where you might come from, since you are a student of Ares College, you have to fight for your college's glory. With regards to anything else, you can talk about it after this. After Zhou Mu finished speaking, he icily stared at the group in front of him. Meng Tian, I don't care about your background. In the team, there will be no gender separation. Are you sure you want to join in our training? Yes, teacher, Meng Tian replied without hesitation. How are there 2 brats from the physics department? Teacher Zhou, although I might be from the physics department, I have the heart of one from the mecha department, replied Zhang Shan. This bastard was literally stealing his lines. I am willing to fight for the college, replied Wang Zheng. Excellent, we can head out. Follow me. The group followed him outside to realize there was a space shuttle awaiting them. What was he trying to do? Wasn't it a nightly training from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m.? Wasn't he going to follow established practices? Ma Xiao had a bad feeling about it. Although they did previously mention that they would be doing the real thing, could it be that they would start immediately? After that event, Carl immediately left the college and returned to Mars. Although the principal had tried his best to get him to stay, he was unable to change Carl's mind. Frankly, ever since Carl had arrived on Earth, he was looking for an opportunity to leave. He was unable to find an opportunity to properly compete with Masashi, as his rival was simply uninterested. Furthermore, the atmosphere was unsuitable for Carl. It was perfect that he could use this situation as an excuse to leave. To Ares College, losing him was a terrible situation, especially since Carl's mech piloting abilities were quite decent. Although Wang Zheng and the rest were taken away, their course materials were recorded in the form of videos for them to slowly catch up when time was available. Back in the dormitory 007, Chen Shu, Yao Ailun, and Yan Xiaoshu were anxiously taking care of their skeleton core. The 3 of them were extremely active. Chen Shu even frequently answered questions and guided noobs. Especially when it came to theoretical knowledge, he was exceptionally proficient in it. Brother Shu, I used to learn from high-level battle videos, but I would still lose pitifully. However, ever since I started watching Skeleton God's battle videos, I have been losing even more pitifully than before. Asked player, I must become a god. Chen Shu was stunned. What have you been using? Of course the War God #1. It's such an all-rounded mech that it is essential for becoming a god. Without waiting for Chen Shu's reply, the audience burst into raucous laughter. This funny bastard. Chen Shu did not know whether to laugh or to cry. When things are going your way, you might be able to win. However, one's ability to battle comes from learning from experience. Other than having the skills to do so, one must practice often to achieve success. Now we will commence the 3rd mech analysis lesson. The Model 3 Ice Racer mech's specialty lies in. Chen Shu and Yao Ailun's mech analysis had improved significantly. It covered both the strengths and weaknesses of the mech and also included replays of high-level battles involving the mech. They hoped that one day, the War God #1 would be able to compete with the high-level mechs. As of now, even Wang Zheng did not know where he had been shipped to. It looked like he had been brought to a military barracks. Steel Leg Joe seemed extremely familiar with the place. Valiant soldiers could be seen all around, and the group of them looked like innocent lambs in comparison. F***CK. Where is this place? It seems so dark and foreboding. Zhang Shan frowned. He felt that the situation was not looking very positive. Zhang Shan was starting to regret his decision. He was a genius of the physics department, so he should have been enjoying life with beautiful women, but instead he was here. Do you know where we are, seniors? Asked Masashi. Ma Xiao shrugged his shoulders. Don't ask me. This is also my first time here. We will have to adapt to the situation. Looks like the old bastard is playing for keeps this time. With the memory of the previous military training, everyone snapped to attention. However, this time things were different. There was nothing here. Furthermore, everyone was given their own room. Comprehensive training starts tomorrow. Rest well tonight, as you will get no further chance to do so. said Joe Mew as he walked away. How could someone sleep peacefully after hearing such words? Everyone returned to their own rooms. Wang Jung was no exception and very quickly fell asleep. In the dead of the night, the Rubik's Cube in Wang Jung's chest suddenly began to glow. A faint beam of light shone out, and a waveband was emitted. The sound made was completely different from a normal one. Weapons system detected, entering, analyzing, unknown civilization, rank B determined to have value in analysis. Implementing perfect super war god plan. The base's mainframe computer suddenly vaguely lit up for a brief moment, for barely a second before it went back to normal. This small anomaly did not catch anyone's attention. During the second day's roll call, everyone had arrived except for Wang Jung, who was late. Joe Mew waved his hand. No need to bother with him. The rest of you will continue with the special training. Meng Tian and Zhang Shan glanced at each other in surprise. They both understood Wang Jung's personality. How could he ever be late? In his room, Wang Jung was currently in a deep slumber. Even after he was awakened by the soldiers, he was still extremely dizzy. He could not continue with the training and was thus removed from the special training. Wang Jung felt extremely helpless. He did not know what was wrong with his body. What had the Rubik's Cube done to him? It was as though it had sucked his energy and he had no strength left in his entire body. He wanted to call out Skeleton for an explanation of the situation, but instead he chose to endure it. Poor Wang Jung, who had been sent back to school, only wanted to sleep, and he spent each day in a half-awake state. Yao Ailun was a nerd and Chen Shu was a minor, so neither of them had any experience in taking care of others. However, Wang Jung often felt someone placing a hot towel on his forehead and wiping off his sweat. When he opened his eyes, he saw Yi Zisu by his side. Why am I in the females' dormitory? Brother Jung, we are in our own dormitory, 007. Student Zisu has been taking care of you for the past 2 days. You have been in a daze the whole time. When we brought you for a checkup, they said that you had overexerted yourself. What did they do in the special training? Are they trying to mess your body up? We physics department students are not suited for such things. Chen Shu said in a concerned tone. Just by looking at Zhang Shan's body, one could see that it was fierce and unyielding. However, compared to him, Wang Jung's body did not seem to be suited for special training and thus he was afflicted with this problem. Wang Jung let out a bitter smile. He didn't even have the chance to attempt the special training. Bitch, once he fully recovered he would definitely summon Bonehead and get him to explain himself. Wang Jung struggled to sit up, and his entire body throbbed with a dull ache. Yi Zisu immediately helped him up. Ah, you don't need to strain yourself. You won't become fat just by eating an extra mouthful. 1. Thank you. Other than that, Wang Jung did not know what else to say. Yi Zisu let out a slight smile. Why are you being so polite to me? We are friends, and taking care of people is a girl's natural ability. Cough. When will I be able to get a friend like this? Yao Ailun asked enviously. Older sister Zisu, you're extremely pretty. If I was brother Jung, I would definitely choose to chase you, Chen Shu naively and guiltlessly said. Wang Jung had no energy at all. If not, he would definitely have punched that bastard. He definitely said that on purpose. Yi Zisu shook her head. He already has someone he likes. Wang Jung stared blankly at her. He did. How did he not even know himself? However, looking at Yi Zisu's gaze, Wang Jung suddenly realized who she was referring to. He helplessly shrugged his shoulders. It was completely impossible to be together with her. Xiao Shi was not actually Xiao Shi. Bang, the door was kicked open, then a single individual rushed in energetically. It was Professor Xiao Fei. Wang Jung, you little bastard. You dare to skip my class? Ah, what happened to you? Xiao Fei stared blankly at the pale-faced Wang Jung. I heard you were removed from the special training. How could Steel Leg Joe mess you up to this extent? Wang Jung hurriedly waved his hands. It has nothing to do with Teacher Joe. My body just couldn't handle it. Didn't I already tell you before? You're not meant for physical labor. So long as you focus on a single path, that is enough. You don't need to take any detours, Xiao Fei sighed. Dear student Wang did not know whether to laugh or to cry. Xiao Fei then began to size up Yi Zisu. Not bad. Is she your girlfriend? Tisk tisk. Your standards aren't bad. Yi Zisu stood up. Hello Professor Xiao Fei. I am Yi Zisu, his high school classmate and his friend. This was not the first time that someone had misunderstood their relationship. Wang Jung felt slightly embarrassed. Haha, Professor, she is just a friend. Oh, a friend? Zisu, this little fellow isn't bad. You have to grab hold of him. In this day and age, 9 out of 10 guys are just weird. Go for him even if it doesn't work out later. The 3 male students in the dormitory broke out into cold sweat. Professor Xiao Fei was truly too ruthless. All's good. There's someone taking care of you, so I will be taking my leave. Barely a few moments after Xiao Fei had left, Yan Xiaoshu rushed in with a basket of fruits. Wang Jung suddenly felt very fortunate. There were so many people who were concerned about him. Yi Zisu did not care about the others teasing, and she helped Wang Jung peel the fruits. The other 3 continued to engage in chatter and gossip with Wang Jung. The truth was that the vast majority of students had a very relaxed and happy lifestyle. None of them were as focused as Wang Jung. Everyone would have their own paths in the future and thus one should seek to enjoy their life in college. To attend classes, flirt with others, discuss hopes and dreams. This was the ideal college life. Although Wang Jung's body had come out of the Rubik's Cube, his spirit was still left inside it. All he could do was to dream of ways to improve himself. Honestly, it was bad to place himself under such pressure. On the other hand, the special training was not going smoothly either. Zhang Shan and Ma Xiao both aimed for Meng Tian, and they were particularly active in training. Despite that, Meng Tian still treated them with disdain. A man had to be a winner. To be frank, with Zhang Shan's physique and reflexes, not going to the mech department could be considered a waste of talent. He and Wang Jung's situations were quite similar. However, due to the stunts that Wang Jung had pulled off, it had forced him into the situation he was in right now. Steel Leg Joe did not care about one's year in college. He aimed to use the special training's results to determine the placings of the individuals, including the team leader's position. As a result, Ma Xiao was also forced to perform at 120%. Furthermore, he was a senior student, and if he were to be beaten by a junior, such an act would be truly humiliating. Truthfully speaking, he was under tremendous pressure. Merely competing with the bull like Zhang Shang was already a headache. In addition, he had to deal with Masashi. What made things worse was that Masashi was extremely interested in contending for the position of team leader. With regards to Wang Jung, after being removed from the special training, he spent the entire day resting and had recovered almost 70 to 80% of his energy. As a result, he was just able to attend class. Despite that, he tried to summon Bonehead but unfortunately, he could get no reaction out of the Rubik's Cube and thus he could only wait. In the Sagittarius system, Lin Weiyin's tour group had already finished their preparations. However, Weiyin had received an extremely strange piece of news. Before a princess undergoes her coming-of-age ceremony, she would be allowed one request. So long as the request was not too outrageous, the royal family would definitely attempt to fulfill the request to the best of their abilities. It could be considered a blessing from the king himself. However, her cousin, Aina, had chosen to waste her request on something trivial. Aina very quickly realized that she could use this one special request to meet a certain someone. Weiyin wondered what kind of 3-headed, 6-armed individual could possess such charisma in order to captivate her cousin. Xiao Fei's lesson was in the morning, and many students were in attendance. Wang Jung found a nice seat and sat down. If he was unable to make it for the lesson, then so be it. Since he was here, he would definitely sit in the front row to prevent the professor from flipping out. Yao Ailun and Chen Shu were still concerned about Wang Jung's body, so the two of them were sitting on his left and right. Brother Jung, do you not want to rest for another day? You can ask for a day of leave from Professor Xiao. I am not that weak. I am fine, Wang Jung replied as he laughed. Wang Jung, I recommend you focus on physics. After that you can find a beautiful girl and get into a meaningful relationship with her. Enjoy the college student life. Why do you want to torture yourself? We are cultured individuals. We are not of the same breed as those barbarians. Yi Zisu treats you extremely well, she has no boyfriend, and her family is good to do. Even if you looked with a lantern, you would be unable to find one just like her. Don't be ignorant of the blessings around you. Yao Ailun admonished. Frankly speaking, if any girl were to treat him as well as Yi Zisu treated Wang Zheng, he would definitely be unable to control himself. Yeah, brother Zheng, I guess you don't really like Meng Tian. Although elder sister Meng Tian has a fiery hot body, I think Yi Zisu is much gentler. Girls like her are the best. Chen Shu said earnestly. Wang Zheng could only bitterly smile. He wished he could beat the two of them to death. Perhaps he should put to rest those fantasies of his. What was done was done. He was merely an ordinary individual. Was it time to face reality? At this point in time, the noisy classroom suddenly went completely silent. A girl walked into the classroom while simultaneously glancing around. No one even so much as breathed. How could there be such a pretty girl? Even good-looking celebrities could not be compared to her. Just looking into her eyes would cause one to become absolutely captivated. Her beautiful visage perfectly framed her dazzling eyes. The classroom was surprisingly quiet as everyone stared at the foreign girl. She was definitely not from Aries College. Such a beautiful girl would definitely have been noticed the moment she stepped into the college grounds. The girl looked as though she was looking for someone. At this point in time, everyone hoped that the one she was looking for was themselves. Despite wearing simple clothes, it could be felt that she possessed an unattainable aura of grandeur. The girl's fists were clenched as though she was slightly nervous and anxious. Student Yao stared blankly at her. She is truly a goddess. Heavens, how could such a beautiful girl exist? Chen Shu, who was at the side, was similarly dazed. He was absolutely speechless. Even the self-pitying student Wang raised his head and was similarly dazed. After shaking his head and rubbing his eyes, he exclaimed, F***CK, am I hallucinating? Wang Zheng had already buried such thoughts into the depths of his heart. When she was around, he did not feel anything. Only after she left did he feel a sense of longing for her. However, the distance between the two of them was just too vast. Wang Zheng was a reasonable person and thus he chose to bury those thoughts. Could it be that this sense of longing was a sickness? At long last the girl seemed to have found the person she was looking for. Step by step, she approached the trio. Hello, fellow classmate, could you please swap seats with me? The girl asked when she stood in front of Yao Ailun. Dear student Ailun could only nod his head like an airhead. Why are you here? Wang Zheng foolishly asked. It seemed as though he was not hallucinating. A familiar impulse surged up from the depths of his heart. Aina gave him a brilliant smile. I missed you. Those three simple words seemed like thousands of words, too. Wang Zheng grabbed Aina's hand, and at this moment, Xiao Fei walked in. After seeing the sight in front of her, she too was shocked and could only cough dryly several times. This is Wang Shishi, she is an exchange student. I hope everyone can take care of her. Aina very naturally sat next to Wang Zheng. Their two gazes were interlocked, and it seemed as though nothing else mattered. Below the table, the two had not let go of each other's hands. Instead, they were holding even more tightly to one another. Chen Shu and Yao Ailun were absolutely petrified. What kind of world were they living in? Professor Xiao Fei's class was usually exceptionally engaging. However, the fact was that the entire class appeared distracted. Everyone frequently glanced at the girl sitting in the first row. It was as though her back was just as seductive as her front. How did your hair turn black? Wang Zheng asked, with a silly expression on his face. It felt as though he was dreaming. I can't reveal my true identity, Aina replied as she lightly bit her lip, her heart pounding against her chest. The entire situation seemed as though he was in a dream. Yet the truth was that she was right in front of him yet again. 1. Idiomatic expression meaning that taking a step back would not actually cause any harm. 2. Idiomatic expression meaning that it was as though that a lot of things had been said. The Crown Princess's coming-of-age ceremony wish was to study at Aries College for 3 months. Although her wish seemed slightly strange, it did not violate any rules or regulations. Looking at it from a different angle, even if the truth was revealed, it would only benefit the relationship between Aslan and the Sol Federation. The Crown Princess's alias was Wang Shishi. Only the principal knew of her true identity. Ji Yute was shocked giddy at the sudden good fortune. This was no different from winning the Milky Way lottery. Although her identity had to be kept a secret, after this was said and done, it would indubitably bring about good publicity. Instead of choosing the universe's most prestigious academy in Aslan, she chose to go to Ares College instead. Even if he was dreaming, he could not believe it. The two of them held each other's hands tightly until the class ended. What was even more fortunate was the fact that Xiao Fei did not tease the two of them, but instead watched them walk away with a strange expression on her face. Once the class ended, Yao Ailun and Chen Shu could no longer sit blankly at the side. They could not tolerate it anymore. Wang Zheng, how rude can you be? This beautiful girl, no, who might this beautiful goddess be? Won't you introduce her to your fellow brothers? Dear student Ailun was extremely regretful as he was not dressed in his best attire and therefore felt lacking. You can call me Wang Shishi. I am Wang Zheng's distantly related cousin. We have no blood ties between us, Aina replied with a smile as she blinked her eyes. Yao Ailun and Chen Shu turned and looked at each other before looking into the sky and sighing deeply. Wang Zheng, you are truly defying the heavens. I can't take it anymore. Brother Zheng, you have hidden yourself so deeply that when you revealed your true colors, it was absolutely frightening. It's time for you to treat us. Wang Zheng gave them a wry smile. Okay, no problems, we will do it tonight. My apologies, but please excuse us. The entire class was gazing at them as Wang Zheng pulled Aina out of the classroom. They were once separated by millions of miles. Wang Zheng did not even dare to dream of her. The higher his expectations, the greater the disappointment. However, she had actually come back to him. Am I dreaming? Wang Zheng asked as he tightly clutched Aina's hand. He was worried that the moment he let go, she would just fade away. Aina lightly bit her lip. Have you ever had such a realistic dream? The two of them merely stood there and looked at each other. Wang Zheng knew that he was in love. Regardless of whatever status the girl in front of him possessed, regardless of what would happen, he only knew one thing. He loved Aina. The advantage of being in the college's grounds was that it could provide a suitable place and atmosphere for these two lovebirds to be together. The last time they were separated, the two of them were merely friends. However, now that Aina had appeared again, they had broken through that barrier. Perhaps it was because the two of them felt that it would not be possible to have such an intense feeling ever again. When Aina had previously returned to Aslan, she knew that what had passed was past. She could only treat it as a beautiful memory. However, the more she thought about it, the more she was unable to repress her feelings. All of the people around her only sought to sing praises about her beauty and stature, things which she wished to escape from. Why was it not possible? Why did she not take the initiative? Thus, she came. Why? To be honest, even Wang Zheng did not understand why. He felt that he wasn't bad looking, but not so good looking that his looks could cause immense upheaval and chaos. Was it because he was talented? With Aina's looks, knowledge, and status, if she wanted it, the number of young geniuses that would attempt to court her would form a queue so long it would exceed the boundaries of the solar system. It's because you're the most foolish, Aina replied. Foolishness? Could this even be counted as a good point? When a girl wanted to be complicated, she could be extremely complicated. However, when a girl wanted to be direct, she could be extremely direct. Even when Wang Zheng did not know Aina's identity and situation, he was willing to lend a hand to help. $300, even if it was 300 million, it was nothing to a princess of Aslan. However, this was everything to Wang Zheng. If a person was willing to give everything to you, what else could you want? In reality, it was not as though Aina had not tried to probe him. Even after seeing her face, Wang Zheng was still willing to act on behalf of her. It had truly stirred up her emotions. Even Aina was slightly embarrassed at that time. Though it has to be said that afterwards, Wang Zheng's immense knowledge had given Aina another shock. Furthermore, even in the face of an assassin's attack, Wang Zheng's protection had completely captivated Aina's heart. This strange experience could have been written off as another story. Yet even though it seemed impossible for the two of them to be together again, it still managed to happen. It was a fairy tale come true. Regardless of whether it was Yi Zixu or Meng Tian, both of them were extremely exceptional. However, as Aina took the only place in his heart, Wang Zheng did not feel anything towards them. In a private space, the two of them burst into endless conversation. Aina did not stay in the college dormitories, but rather at the Shangri-La Grand Hotel. Chen Shu and Yao Ailun felt slightly confused as the two of them walked back to the dormitory. Brother Ailun, is Brother Jung an expert? What do you mean by an expert? A sage when it comes to emotions. I always felt that he has hidden himself deeply. Why is it that there are no beautiful girls chasing me? Bitch, how old are you? Elder brother is still single. Yao Ailun stared coldly at him. Looks like I have to learn from Brother Jung. That bastard is full of secrets. As a fellow brother in arms, we have to live and die together. Even if he already had a girlfriend, why did he only tell us now? Elder sister Shishi has a very refined temperament. I have never, ever met such a graceful girl. Chen Shu shook his head slowly as he spoke. That is an innate quality bestowed from birth. F***ck, we have to grasp this opportunity. It has to be said that dear student Ailun and student Shu had suffered yet another blow. They could not let it pass anymore. They had to deal him a vicious blow. It was a tradition that whoever had a girlfriend had to treat the others to a meal. Each day that passed with Aina around was like spending a day in heaven. The Rubik's Cube, battle energy, and whatnot all seemed so trivial when Aina was around. In the afternoon, Yan Xiaoshu was shocked petrified for a whole 5 minutes. Am I dreaming? Student Xiaoshu said as he pinched his own face. He could feel it, so it definitely wasn't a dream. Aina gave him a slight smile. It has been a long time, Yan Xiaoshu. The usually quick-witted Yan Xiaoshu was absolutely dumbfounded at the scene. He briefly recovered and dragged Wang Zheng to the side. Boss, what is happening? Have the heavens finally opened their eyes? What do you mean by the heavens opening their eyes? Aina, Shishi is currently studying in the physics department. Please remember to keep her identity a secret. Looking at Wang Zheng's face of extreme contentment and happiness, Yan Xiaoshu also felt happy for him. His elder brother had been strong since young, his aim clear. However, Yan Xiaoshu had always felt that his journey was just too weary. To live was to be happy. Yi Zisu and Meng Tian were exceptional individuals, and he did not know who Wang Zheng was truly waiting for. Yet, upon seeing Aina, it all made sense to Xiaoshu. Boss, you really are a bastard, everything has been worth it. He could see that Yan Xiaoshu was truly happy for him. Wang Zheng patted Xiaoshu's shoulders. You aren't bad yourself. I heard your confession was successful this time. Well, somewhat, and Mei said that she has to consider for a period of time. Hey, she's still a girl. I just need to push her in the right direction and she's mine. Yan Xiaoshu said confidently. Aina looked honored to be in his presence. Student Xiaoshu was one who was always full of gestures. However, the group dynamics would no longer the same, it would be 2 on 2. Yan Xiaoshu had also brought his other half. In the cafeteria, and Mei constantly swept her electrifying and fiery eyes up and down Aina's figure. Even if she used a microscope, she would be unable to find any flaws with Aina. How could this world have such a girl? From her appearance to her bearing, all of it could be summed up in one word, flawless. And Mei at this point felt indignant on behalf of Yi Zisu. What great qualities did Wang Zheng possess? What arrogance, he would even dare to bully someone like Yi Zisu. When the girls had their midnight gossiping sessions, they talked about anything and everything. With Wang Zheng's capability and looks, he was able to get close to Yi Zisu. Even one's ancestors would be furious at such a sight. Wang Zheng was clearly out of Yi Zisu's league. Who could imagine yet another beautiful girl chasing after Wang Zheng? And Mei turned to Xiaoshu. Tyrant Su, why are you quiet today? Not hearing you brag about yourself seems very unnatural. And Mei also felt that something was strange. She and Yan Xiaoshu had already gone on several dates. This person was very interesting and had numerous things to talk about. His family background could be considered decent, except for the fact that they sold sanitary napkins. However, Yan Xiaoshu was a confident and unbridled individual, and Mei really liked that about him. A self-confident and humorous boy could indeed attract the interest of girls. However, this fellow truly liked to brag. In fact, the way he bragged was very amusing. Tyrant Su. Wang Zheng stared blankly at him before bursting out in laughter. Giving Xiaoshu a thumbs up, he said, "And Mei, you seem to have discovered his true self. Looks like he won't be able to escape from your grasp." Yan Xiaoshu coughed dryly several times. He couldn't just act like a pretentious prick, he had to gauge the situation first. To brag in front of the Princess of Aslan? Even if dear student Yan had thicker skin, he still wouldn't do so. And May smiled at his comment before directing the conversation at Aina. She, welcome to Aries College. As Zisu's good friend and Xiaosu's girlfriend, I have to say that you need to be careful. You and Wang Jung aren't a good fit. Yan Xiaoshu tugged at May but was given a vicious stare in return. Wang Jung and Aina glanced at each other quickly. They both felt indescribably happy and burst out into smiles. Aina loved this part of Wang Jung. He did not care about her status, and she could see in his gaze that he truly did not care about her identity and only liked her for who she was. It was that simple. That pure. This heartfelt connection was mutually understood. It was something others could never understand. As this was the case, May felt even more indignant on behalf of Yi Zisu. Brother, it looks like my competitors are numerous. Will you give up on me? Aina asked warmly. Wang Jung and Yan Xiaoshu looked at each other. Who would have expected Aina to have such a childish side to her? Wang Jung's heart felt like it was going to melt. Yan Xiaoshu immediately tried to smooth things over. You should know Yi Zisu. We were all classmates in middle school, all alumni of Dawn Middle School. Thus, the three of us are considered to be close. And May angrily flicked Yan Xiaosu's head with a finger. Look at what you are saying. You should no longer be called Tyrant Su in the future. You should be known as Softy Su instead. This fellow was usually as arrogant as the heavens, but when placed in front of a beautiful girl, he would lose all of his imposing mannerisms. And May no longer pursued the topic at hand. She began to ramble and talk about girly things. Although Wang Shishi did not usually speak much, when they started talking about branded goods, she was extremely clear about it. However, when Shishi started to talk about some other brands, and May had never even heard of some of them. Indeed, it would seem that Aslan was slightly more advanced in the cosmetics industry, and thus the girls who lived there knew a bit more. After finishing their coffee and excusing themselves from the group date, and May dragged Tyrant Su to the side. Your elder brother is a playboy. He actually dares to get involved with 3 girls simultaneously. Are you the same as him? Yan Xiaoshu burst out into cold sweat. How could this be, boss, and I only care for one girl? Tisk. In our dormitory, Yi Zisu and Meng Tian are already grappling in the dark. It resulted in Du Qingqing and I being faced with an endless headache. Furthermore, he promised to be a model for the art club, but up till now he has not done so, said May. Although Yan Xiaoshu seemed tormented, deep down he was extremely happy. It was truly a reversal of fortunes. Back in middle school, the two of them were like the weeds growing at the side of the road. No one gave them a second look. However, now that they were in college, they had replaced their bird guns with cannons. 1. Especially Boss's rapid transformation. He didn't just grow wings, he turned into a space shuttle. This feeling of respect was as deep as the river Taotao. Boss has been busy with special training and thus definitely forgot about it. Don't worry, I will remind him. Since the words have been spoken, they will definitely be done. If he isn't free, I will go on behalf of him, Yan Xiaoshu said as he patted his chest. 1. Nio Chang Huan Pao bird gun becomes a cannon means that they have improved tremendously. How dare you? Your true intention is to seduce the pretty girls in the art society. Of course not, only you would treat me like a treasure, Yan Xiaoshu laughed. And May loved Yan Xiaoshu's personality and she believed a boy's charm lay in this. But to be honest, Yan Xiaoshu wasn't lacking in any of the other departments either. He was born in an acceptable family and his personal life was satisfactory. So wherever he went, and May was proud of him. Who is this Wang Shishi? Where did she come from? When I return to the city, I will have to report that this lady is too beautiful and elegant for Wang Jung. And May said, how could she be as beautiful as our Mei? She's inferior compared to you. Yan Xiaoshu spoke with his conscience. Tisk, I'll give it to your silver tongue, but if you are trying to change topics, it is futile. Be honest and don't tell me you don't know. And May pinched Yan Xiaoshu's loin. She is Wang Jung's distant relative who visited Earth before. Perhaps she thought that the Earth's environment was refreshing, so she decided to transfer over. Student Yan Xiaoshu upheld his brotherly loyalty. And May nodded. Aslan girls are certainly quite elegant. Even though she wore an ordinary dress, it was enough. How is she any better than Zisu? You guys don't have the eyes for girls. and Mei hit all of them with a stick, and Yan Xiaoshu laughed bitterly as he cried out, "Boss, we brothers have been unjustly blamed on multiple occasions because of you." On their way back, Aina didn't talk about the potential rivals. It was not because Aina thought that she was advantageous, but rather she understood Wang Zheng. Although the time they spent together wasn't very long, it was love at first sight that kept them going. The physics class in the afternoon finished relatively quickly for Wang Zheng. To him, the definition of time had lost its meaning when Aina was around. After school, both of them would surely be on a date, and Aina wanted Wang Zheng to battle. As the Princess of Aslan, Aina had come across skilled fighters. The Aslan Empire was not short of elite warriors. After the ban of the extremist group, the famous killer that was from there could not even deal with a single blow from Wang Zheng. This made Aina extremely curious about the circumstances of Wang Zheng. As for Skeleton's battle history, Yan Xiaoshu was thoughtless enough to have forgotten all about it. Aina, however, remembered it clearly. It was kept by her side in Aslan, when she was always surrounded by people and had little freedom. It was during battles that Wang Zheng was the most charismatic. As for his ID, Wang Zheng did not have the intention at all to hide it from Aina. When Wang Zheng entered CT, Aina wanted to observe, so naturally he felt the need to perform well. Once Skeleton's ID was connected into the system, countless notifications started to buzz. Rainbow would wait for him whenever he was online. His brothers often ridiculed him. He was going to get kicked out of the police force if he continued having such a slack attitude. Rainbow, on the other hand, remained very calm, who said that a policeman had to train intensely all day long. Even a robot also had its hobbies. Once he saw that Skeleton was online, Rainbow immediately signaled to the rest. Within the internet bar, there were instantly people crowding around him. They were all from the special police force, and they had heard about this demon that surpassed their big boss. They wanted to understand this special person. The Skeleton Corps was all fired up as though it was a festival celebration. Rainbow notified Chen Shu, and Chen Shu immediately told Dao Ailun and Yan Xiaoshu. As established members of the Skeleton Corps, their attendance was almost certain. What everyone was curious about was his opponent. Wang Zheng was afraid that the opponent he was freely matched with would be much inferior. As he was scrolling through the list, he saw a familiar name appear. Wild King. This person was quite competent in his skills in mech piloting. After browsing through his user profile, Wang Zheng laughed. He was a very direct person. He was planning to use his trusty mech instead of the War God number 1, and if he were to lose again, he would join the Skeleton Corps as a firm believer. This did not bother Wang Zheng at all. Instead, he was sure that it would be because of him that Aina would get to observe an interesting battle. Skeleton vs Wild King. Everyone was shocked. Didn't this fella lose the last round? Was he not convinced and wanted another battle? But soon, everyone was stunned. They had not came across someone that was so shameless. War God number 1 vs Light Cavalry Model D. Even old friend Solon was in a daze. Skeleton was up for anything. In the last battle, War God number 1 nearly failed. Although the mech did make a comeback, everyone could tell that it was a risky one. Wild King was definitely one of the top in Asia, and now he was going to use the model that he operated best in. Skeleton was just asking to be killed. Everyone in the hall was staring at their screens. There was a limit to one's skills. Would Skeleton be daring enough to accept? Rainbow and his gang of brothers were also watching with the jaws agape. Boss. This guy is doomed. There is no way the War God number 1 is able to defeat the Light Cavalry. I can bet my surname on it. Wild King is one of the hottest players around, and he has a formidable record in the diamond ranks. It is rumored that he became even fiercer after Skeleton stepped into his territory. It is an unwise move. The last win was risky enough, but this. Rainbow was reluctant to speak. He had battled against Skeleton before, and he's always had a special gut feeling about Skeleton. He felt like Skeleton was not performing to his fullest but was watching and dissecting his moves. In this aspect, he felt that Skeleton was like him. Just that he was on a completely different level. Wild King had way more technological advantages, so it was going to be a rough battle, and with it came greater anticipation. Wild King could not believe himself that his opponent was willing to battle on such uneven grounds. No matter the outcome, he would applaud Skeleton for his courage. Wild King was waiting. He was preparing for his special training stage to get ready for the 3 military schools exchange program. The principal got news that Ares College was secretly preparing, so he could use a victory to welcome the disgustingly intense training to come. Light Cavalry Model D, the Aslan Empire's conventional mech model. It was the model that had the performance balance. Simply put, it was a model that could ensure that the full potential of the pilot's ability and awareness were utilized. The MP5 laser guns that came with it allowed for extreme accuracy in shots during movement and unstable environments. The laser sword was also a necessary weapon upgrade with the model. Wild King did not make the first move as he already had such an advantage over Skeleton's mech. Countless players were watching patiently online. What would be Skeleton's next move? Instantly, everyone's spectacles shattered against the floor. Simple arena. It was the cruelest and most direct battle arena. There was nowhere to block and nowhere to hide, and it relied solely on the pilot's stamina and skills. It was a place to show competency, whereby accidents could be minimized. This was unbelievable. He is so cool. The Earth is no longer able to tie down Skeleton. How dare he choose that arena? He's just looking down on his opponent. If he can win, I will no longer believe in love. Dude, this has got nothing to do with love. Then me believing in love ain't got nothing to do with you. The gods of the different districts were promptly replaying, the different PK were out of control, and votes and victory bets were also increasing sharply. In this kind of situation, there were still 4 impossible people who thought that Skeleton could win. A few newbies were shocked to the core. Were they really so dumb? Within the Skeleton Corps, Yao Ailun and Chen Shu were passionately singing Lin Weiyan's new single, Not Afraid. No matter who the opponent was, their allegiance was clear. Hello, everyone. I am Young Deer, the ubiquitous Young Deer. I have been recording the program since early yesterday. In the diamond ranks, players are pitted against each other until noon. I was still planning to have a nice afternoon nap, but who knew that a certain someone would appear again? Let me see, Young Deer said in a tone of ridicule. Incredible. Who would be so arrogant? The war god #1 against the light cavalry. Everyone must have heard of Wild King, but to remind you of his battle status, Wild King is currently on an 11 battle winning streak in America's diamond ranks for 1-on-1 battles. As for 5-on-5 group battles, he has a 9 battle winning streak, and he was re-elected as the top place amongst the diamond ranks light cavalry mech players. Young Deer swallowed his saliva. Easy arena map, excellent. Let us look forward to Skeleton's moves, amen. He traced a cross sign on his chest. In the forums, people were spamming comments. There were comments that either insulted him or complimented him. It could not be helped if you drank 2 bottles of milk and had diarrhea for a week. Young Deer was onto Skeleton. He did not believe that Skeleton was undefeatable. Aina was right next to Wang Zheng. She liked Wang Zheng's calm confidence. Even in her position, she was uncertain about the outcome, and after listening to the introduction, she knew that the opponent was strong. Back in the spaceship, Weiyan was curled up in her sofa, enjoying her popcorn. His eyes lit up. Interesting, interesting. Let me see how good you are, haha. Love can really blind a person. It was apparent, based on the time, that her cousin was already there. As for the boy, he would make his way there immediately if he was rash, and rashness most likely caused bad endings. Angela, do you want some popcorn? Thank you, Your Highness. Angela, you don't have to be so serious. Do you think Skeleton has a chance of winning in this battle? Weiyan smiled. Such a rebellious name to begin with. This guy must be stupid. The war god #1's performance and configuration are inferior compared to the light cavalry. Unless his opponent is a pig, it is not possible for him to win. Angela said blatantly. Spectators, the long-awaited battle is about to begin. It will be a battle to remember, and it will be the last lowly battle that I will be commentating. Thank God, I am finally free. Young Deer said nonchalantly. He was definitely neglecting the audience's feelings. Apparently, he had quite a lot of supporters. After all, there were swarms of new spectators every battle. In the CT hall, the workers were bedazzled. A competition like that had resulted in the sales of 80,000 tickets, with 10,000 VVIP spectators. What was this rhythm? Ailun hung a cross on his chest. God bless, please don't let it be his last dinner. The arena was as grand as an ancient Roman amphitheater, and it would ignite the fighting spirit within every warrior. Without doubt, this was the place where the warriors would want to fully display their skills. Wild King's Light Cavalry No. 1 arrived on the scene. Aslan Empire's designs had always been meticulously beautiful and mighty, and this model was no exception. Even the face of the mech was astoundingly handsome and could only be possibly made with a strict proportion of pure gold. Of course, none of that mattered as much as the warrior's abilities. On the other side of the arena, Skeleton's War God No. 1 also landed. Wang Jung moved his body with light movements. Aina was by his side, so needless to say, his emotions at that moment could not be expressed with words. She made her way casually to his side. However, Wang Jung knew that she would not feel comfortable. What Wang Jung could do was to express his feelings through his battle. Sorry, the battle had not begun. The crowd suddenly saw the usually unresponsive skeleton write a word. He had only just loaded into the game. Why was he apologizing? What was the meaning of this? Wild King got a shock too. Was Skeleton already planning to back out of the battle? Suddenly, a sense of threat emerged from Skeleton. This feeling was similar to that of a crisis in a street fight. The War God No. 1 was emitting a terrifying aura. The rookies, and surprisingly Wild King, were not able to sense it. Battle begin. We are finally starting. We are about to. Is the light cavalry about to use remote suppression? The light cavalry model that Wild King liked tended to be more violent and was more suitable for close combat battles. The mech was already swiftly aiming his MP5 laser gun. The War God No. 1. Mech was rapidly gaining speed and was headed towards the light cavalry. Boom, the light cavalry acted immediately. The power of the MP5 laser gun, in addition to Wild King's techniques, could certainly negate Skeleton's impact. Wasn't he a bit too extreme? The audience was also taken aback. With such an advantage with his mech model, accompanied by the suitability of the arena, how could he choose the easier way out? But Wild King was not about to hesitate even the slightest bit. He could feel the strong sense of threat from his opponent now. When the laser roared, War God No. 1 accelerated and slid forward in an arc with great momentum. Wild King was fully focused. His hands remained very stable without trembling even the slightest. The MP5 was charging its shot, but there was a minimum charge-up time. After 2 sets of arc sliding steps, he was in a risky situation. Even if he were a robot, there was still a certain amount of reaction time. He was human and naturally had his limits. Even the mech armor required additional time to react. At this instant, Wild King's laser gun was fully charged. The War God No. 1 could no longer dodge the attack. Boom! A laser blast was shot out and the blast streaked past. Everyone's jaws dropped. Was this a coincidence? What surprised everyone even more was how the War God No. 1 was able to easily dodge the laser beam. Just in the nick of time, he had dodged the round. What was even more surprising was that the War God No. 1 had discarded his own laser rifle. Wild King did not have time to lose. He could still feel the clutches of terror slowly strangling him. The MP5's energy recharged quickly, and the laser gun started firing away again. At this close distance, it was too late to do an arc slide. God! Everyone's mouths formed the letter O. The War God No. 1 made a sway to the left like a ghost, and the laser beam passed through the shadow of the mech. The armor escaped totally unharmed as though it had just performed a teleportation. This was simply impossible. If the opponent had been someone else, it would have totally destroyed the confidence of that person. However, for the case of Wild King, he still had faith in himself. The battle was not over yet, and the winner had not been determined. The MP5 was fired again at the War God No. 1, who was even closer now. Out of the blue, a beam of light flashed past. The War God No. 1 fished out the alloy knife and inserted it into the mouth of the laser beam. Bang! Burst! The alloy knife bounced up from the impact. Wild King managed to get back on his feet in the nick of time and drew out his own laser sword. What happened next was the first time ever in history for him. If Wild King could relive this fight, he would have definitely stood still instead. The War God No. 1 mech which was in midair, had already gripped the alloy knife with a reverse grip at a lightning-like speed and was slashing right down at the light cavalry mech. How was the light cavalry treated so insignificantly? It was treated like an inanimate object. Amidst the smoke, the two fighters clashed, the alloy knife against the laser sword. Who knew that this would only happen once in the entire battle? Both swords staggered, the laser sword was fiercely blocked off, and the war god #1 pushed forward with great might. The sound rumbled like landslides. In spite of the protection of the energy shield, the light cavalry mech was knocked down by the momentum. Within the pilot cabin, Wild King was sent flying with great force. Even though the mech armor was fine, it could not create a counter-reaction to dampen the impact. It would have been much worse if a low-quality armor was in place instead of the light cavalry. The light cavalry armor could no longer afford any more movements. The alloy knife was heading straight for the kill. Pound. Ancient European aristocracy had a type of sport that was still very much liked by the nobles and the rich. The sport was called fencing. It included an action that produced high-speed sword movements with a single hand. A storm-like series of attacks combined into a single hit headed for the light cavalry mech. Bang! In the time needed to blink an eye, the energy shield was ruptured and the light cavalry was sent flying once again. The war god #1 stood still at the same spot and observed quietly. Boom! Before the mech could even land, the cracks on the armor's chest deepened. Everyone watched in silence. Those who were watching it live were petrified by the image. This may be a fight, but no one would have expected these results. This was a chain of hurricane-like blows. This was the god, Skeleton. In the skeleton core, waves of hysterical screams resounded through the sky. Chen Shu and Yao Ailun were bouncing around crazily in their bedroom. This B*****, he completely ruined the Wild King. For someone of Wild King's standard to be so thoroughly defeated that he could not return an attack, this was madness. Is this bullying, kids? I didn't even get the chance to see it properly and it's already over. Was it all an illusion? The slow-motion playback was already being screened. The scene of the laser beam dodge was being played on the screen. The arc sliding step was a movement frequently used by expert players. In this case, the dodge was made with barely any breathing space from the laser beam at the most critical moment. This required extreme accuracy and technical control on the pilot's side. However, this was only the beginning of the godlike play. It was not the emergence of a phantom shadow, it was the pace that War God #1 executed the movement that was the most terrifying. The upper body and lower body seemed to move independently and thus distracted the opponent's judgment for just a moment, allowing him to dodge the attacks. These phantom-like movements were called bewildering steps. This was also used by top players to mislead opponents. It was rumored that this move was a favorite of military ace pilots. However, this was only the beginning. If one could not stand watching at this point, their heart would have exploded after watching what came next. It was clear that the distance between the two mecha was less than 10 meters. The knife launched towards Wild King's laser gun with no mercy. Wild King's will and determination were absolutely firm. Anyone who had gone through the same scenario would have been very frustrated. But Wild King was able to keep his composure and once again aim his laser gun for another accurate shot, but the laser gun exploded after a hit from the alloy knife. Wild King did not make the same mistake as the little red noob. He immediately activated his energy shield. Some also felt that he should not have activated his energy shield. That simple hit on the shoulder had an astounding effect. A closer look at the slow-motion playback showed that the War God #1's shoulder was dented by the impact of the hit. What great force would this require? This tackle was sufficient to break the energy shield. Yet this was still not the limit for Skeleton. To make such a ferocious chain of attacks, even in CT, the pilots would have long ran out of breath. However, Skeleton's reign of terror had just begun. Continuous lightning-like strikes. For the energy shield, fast continuous blows would break it. This was the official explanation. Even children would also understand it. As for it to actually happen, it was more so a question of who could attack so fast with such accuracy and consistency. Wang Zheng's fingers and wrists played a pivotal role. In such a scenario, there was not enough arm room towards the end, and the vibrations had to be generated by Wang Zheng. The superposition of the forces exerted by his fingers and wrists could also overcome the recoil force and push back the limit of the attack. The energy shield was completely shattered and continuous pressure on it would create a force great enough to destroy the mech. If it were a real mech, the pilot inside would have been sent flying. At the very last moment, what everyone saw was a light cavalry defeated as easily as a fallen leaf. Everyone felt helpless merely by watching. The war god number 1 stood in the center of the arena, and it really did seem like the god of war at that instant. Especially for the VVIPs watching amongst the audience, that immersive feeling was so refreshing that they could no longer control their excitement. This was indeed a battle that could make one's blood run. Wild King buried his hands in his head. He could not control his tears from falling. He refused to accept the outcome. It was not as though he had never experienced failure before, but after each failure, he would stand up and challenge his opponents. But in this battle, he really felt helpless. Only at this moment did he understand the meaning of the "sorry" from the beginning of the battle. The official analysis of the battle came out. Solon stopped believing in God and had chosen to put his faith in Skeleton. The new video was coupled with Lin Weiyan's single, Not Afraid, making an invincibly sensational combination. The number of viewers who paid for the live battle surpassed 100,000. Even 10 minutes after the battle had ended, most of the spectators had not left, and the number of people entering the arena was still increasing. Everyone could only sigh. Rainbow and his teammates looked at each other, speechless. If this man is not from the armed police forces, then he must be with the army. Those actions. The average person's body could definitely not handle those, that'd be possible. Who might this guy be? Only a number of people are capable of this, and even so, it will only be used under special circumstances. Boss, where could this guy who can perform miracles be from? My hands are itching from just watching the battle. Come on, want to know the answer? Join the Skeleton Corps? Rainbow said, while smiling. The battle was getting more and more interesting, and his intuition was right. Before the battle, he had a gut feeling that the standard and pace of this battle would be like no other. And it really did happen. The opponent this time was really of another level. It was a real spectacle for spectators, but for other warriors, it was an eye-opener. It was the first time a warrior of such high standards had appeared. Not to mention the fact that devil-like training would be required. In a Milky Way galaxy spaceship, Lin Weiyan was noisily enjoying popcorn. The opponent was so weak, and the battle was over too soon. So meaningless. Weiyan was musically inclined, but not so much on the battlefield. She stretched out her snow-white legs and wriggled her toes playfully. Angela, look how flexible my feet are. Bet you can't do this. That action was difficult. Even in Aslan, only a few people are capable of it. Ah, can you do that? Lin Weiyan jumped onto the sofa and asked out of curiosity. Yes, this person is worthy of being my opponent. The sides of Angela's mouth curled upwards into a smile. There was a hint of respect in her prideful tone. Angela sat at a corner motionlessly with her brows firmly knitted together. Angela, it is not a good habit for girls to frown so often, it will just make you age faster. I was expecting more excitement from this battle. Who knew that the outcome was so predictable? Your Highness, there is something wrong with this person, Angela suddenly sounded. Oh, where's the problem? Weiyan replied in interest. Angela was a top-notch warrior that was recruited by her mother. It was definitely no easy feat to meet the extremely strict requirements of her mother. Her mother was Aslan's Iron Fist Prime Minister and was famous throughout the galaxy, Kashawan Lin Aslan. Fortunately, her mother adhered to the royal traditions and put all expectations of passing the legacy onto her cousin, and it was only so she had her freedom and happiness. As for this trip, it greatly excited Weiyan. Who knows, maybe something big was about to happen. In fact, countless people were anticipating an interview with Skeleton. However, as usual, Skeleton seemed to vanish instantly after every competition. As for Wang Jung, this was the first time he was concerned about his performance. It did not matter if Bonehead could unleash thousands of hits upon him, he just didn't want to disappoint Aina. After taking off the connector from his body, Aina stared at him with great intensity without any expression on her face. Was it because the battle had ended too quickly? Yes, Aina was from Aslan. She knew what had gone wrong with Wild King. Perhaps he should have given the opponent the slightest bit of a chance. Zheng zai wang zheng zuo mo de shi hu, I na hu ran su la guo lai. Zai wang zheng de lian shang qing qing de qin la yi sha. Just as Wang Zheng was in the midst of pondering, Ana suddenly leaned forward and gently planted a kiss onto Wang Zheng's cheek. This was the most spectacular battle I have ever watched. Ana's face flushed a deep red, and her fingers quivered. Wang Zheng stoned. It was his first time being kissed by a girl, despite his age, and it was from the girl of his dreams. Wang Zheng suddenly acted on his impulse and hugged Ana. This was his deepest desire, to have her completely in his embrace. It was as though he had the entire world. The guy has to take the initiative. Tyrant Su always mentioned countless tactics he could have used, but at this moment, Wang Zheng's mind was blank. Their hearts pounded furiously. For two people that fancied each other, it was enough to act on their instincts. Wang Zheng had finally conquered the first kiss of the most beautiful princess of Aslan. After a slight resistance, what was left was for the two of them to accept each other's love. Ana closed her mesmerizing eyes. Her other half did not necessarily have to be a prince, but he must definitely be brave. Time had stopped in the small room. Wang Zheng had greedily requested for that, like a child who knew no boundaries. When the two stepped out of the room red-faced, the surrounding world looked blurry as though they were peering through virtual lenses. The fat boss was a man of experience. He could not help but watch over the couple, helplessly shaking his head. It's good to be young. Back in the years, I was also a charming romantic dude. Boss, didn't you say that you were even fatter back then? An oblivious dude asked curiously. The boss stood there blankly. Memories of his past was smashed. I'm going to deduct 1 day's worth of salary from you. A cry of dismay resonated from the internet bar. No, boss. Please don't. You are the most handsome of them all. Wang Zheng and Ana's relationship was fragile like a piece of paper, and it could be broken with a single poke. But to be able to cross the road holding hands meant happiness. It was something silly that Wang Zheng had never expected himself to fuss over, but now looking back, he was too prideful then. Their fingers quickly intertwined together. In the maglev train, the pair sat facing each other. After sending Ana back, Wang Zheng made his way back to the school and lied on his hostel bunk. What had happened still felt like a dream. At the same moment, Ana was also lying on the bed in her heavily guarded Shangri-La presidential suite. She touched her lips lightly, and her face blushed instantaneously. She was taught Aslan's culture of bravery and strength since young, but what Ana liked was a guy who possessed a warm heart. She remembered the first time she laid eyes on Wang Zheng. She saw him outside her window, wandering around silly as the bellboy of the hotel. Ana was unsure what was it that captivated her, but she was completely lost in him. Without hesitation, her eyes had fixated on him as a goal. What she felt was unparalleled to any feeling before. Just why did he seem so attractive to her? Ana's skylink interrupted her reminiscence. An image of a girl as beautiful as her popped up onto her screen. Dear cousin, you must have arrived. I will be at a concert in Beijing, and it would be great if you could join me. The girl in the image blinked. Remember to bring the guy along. Ana had only shared this secret with Weiyan. This little girl's gossipy heart was surely burning up. Happiness and joy had to be shared, and Ana only had her cousin to confide in. When the image disappeared, Ana was slightly frustrated. This fellow was causing unrest, so she had to be extra careful. Wang Zheng's eyes were shut, sweetly recalling the event. He opened his eyes to find two big faces pressed against his. Shit, what do you two want? When Wang Zheng sat up, Chen Shu and Yao Ailun's expressions were filled with mischief. Brother, seems like something good happened. You can share it with us. Wang Zheng, as the dorm leader, you should share with us your experiences as a leader, Ailun laughed. What has happened to me? It seems like you guys can't wait to share your excitement. Wang Zheng was not stupid. If the two of them found out about the truth, he would be ridiculed to death by them. Our great god of war crushed some rotten twigs. It was just too cool. I am just worried that Wild King will be permanently traumatized, Chen Shu said. Yao Ailun adjusted his spectacles and revealed a smile of wisdom. Wang Zheng, don't try changing the topic. As the dorm leader, you should not only care about your own happiness, brother, speak. The conversation was getting a little out of hand, and Wang Jung did not know whether to cry or laugh. I am just a beginner when it comes to dating. I am still unsure as to who I should consult for advice. Don't you already have a target in mind? Needless to say, I have discovered that it is disadvantageous to be too smart. Yao Ailun lamented. Wang Jung suddenly remembered that his goal was in May too. Brother Jung, you are amazing. To this day, I have yet to have seen someone as beautiful as she. Even those superstars can't hold a candle to her beauty. Chen Shu was deeply envious. Wang Jung had reasons to be proud. Aina was truly unmatchable. If this were to get out, every guy in the Milky Way would be out to get him. Brother, does she have a sister? Do introduce us? Ailun was quick to cut the chase and asked him directly. Wang Jung scratched his nose. I will ask for you. How are things going with the skeleton core? There is a sudden surge. Let me take a look first. There are another bunch of applicants, is this not Wild King? Chen Shu said in shock. To the proud Wild King, this failure was a crippling blow to his self-confidence. With his elite talent and valuable street fighting experience, once he entered Apollo College, he was known as an invincible and undefeatable man in the world of court. How could he have met with failure here? After all, he was still young. But Wang Jung's sorry before the match became Wild King's life-saving straw. He wanted to understand the reason behind it, and because of that, he could not give up all hope on himself. The best way was to join the skeleton corps himself. With his street survival experiences, he had learned to always pick himself up after failures, and this was the only way he could better himself. Chen Shu did not hesitate to accept Wild King's application. Wild King was not the first applicant, and he would not be the last. At this point in time, the skeleton corps was urgently in need of skillful players to guide the rookies. Little Red Noob was one, and now they had Wild King with them, so the number of experienced players was slowly increasing. The world always had to give rookies breathing space to survive. Who knew, one of them might be the one to create miracles. They could not simply give up because of the low statistical probability, and more often than not, this person would have the abilities to reach for the peak. Wang Jung glanced at the management styles of the two. There was a clear division of labor, and it was pretty interesting to witness, similar to a lively community. Wang Jung was pretty delighted with himself. After all, so many people admired him. The problem was that he had to speed up his training and channel enough battle energy to usher Bonehead out. He was looking for a reasonable explanation for this mutation, but looking at Bonehead's situation, he was unlikely to get the answer he was looking for. When he thought about Aina, these problems suddenly vanished like clouds. As long as there was a path, he did not have to care that much. Wang Jung giggled to himself while lying on his bed, and he suddenly had an extreme urge to meet her. It was not as though they had been separated for a long while. After much hesitation, Wang Jung decided to send Aina a message. What are you doing? It was pretty lame, but this is just what couples are like. Almost immediately, he received a reply from Aina. She had replied with the same message. The princess was human too, and those in love have similar trains of thought. Then the pair continued with the meaningless mundane conversation. Even discussing a nonsensical topic could give them half a day's worth of happiness. Yao Ailun could not help but shake his head. Oh, it is another fool that fell into the pit of love. Brother, isn't this just because of love? Stupid man, you have to keep yourself logical when in love. The one who cares more will get hurt more, so we have to have a sensible approach, Ailun lectured, as though he was a professor on the topic. Chen Shu looked confused. My mom said that you have to use your heart if it's love. Did your mom not tell you that all women are tigers? Ailun glared at Chen Shu. Chen Shu shook his head. Let me tell you, all women are scary, and they might eat you alive if you are not careful. Just look at Wang Jung. He will be lucky if he is just left with 10% of his intelligence. He has been talking about the weather for the past half an hour. He could even be a news reporter now.